All right,
Very down.
let's get this rocket off the ground.
All right.
So we want to do it in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everybody, to the Dynamis pod. This is Robert, and today I'm joined by Donald Tyrone. Donald, if you would, introduce yourself to the people.
My name is Donald Tyrone. I live in Savannah. I'm 35 years old and working on cars professionally since I was about 19. So we're going on 16 years. Currently, I work for a large rental company and do a little stuff on the side for a scan tool company named Top Thumb. And it's a pleasure to be here, man.
Awesome to have you. So I got a few questions that I've got that I want to bring to you, and a couple of them you already kind of went over. So when you're out on the jobs and you're doing this stuff professionally, scan tools, any of the other things like FLIR cameras, that kind of thing, what are you typically using the most?
Well, it really depends on, what the situation is. What am I trying to, diagnose? If it's something that's I'm going to need the big guns for, I do have access to a lot of the OEM equipment, but majority of the time I'm grabbing my plus. If it's quick and easy, I just need to read codes. I'm not going to log in and do all that kind of stuff. I will say, like for Chrysler, you definitely want to use the YTech stuff, or if you don't want to go through the gambit of having to sign in through auto auth and whatnot, it's just easier to grab the dongle, hit a button, give and go. But yeah, man, I have access to most of that stuff, but it's just whatever is more convenient.
Sure. Now that makes sense. Training wise and certifications. What type of certifications do you currently have? Are there any that you're looking at that you would like to get? And at your company, do they promote training? I know it's kind of an aftermarket thing, so that you're doing. Do they promote training? Is it something you have to bring up and ask for?
Well, but certifications, I got the ASE masters while I was still at Toyota before I switched jobs. I'm pretty sure they're all expired by now. And I may recert. It's just right this second. It's not required. And there's a lot of stuff going on. So I'll worry about that when I have to worry about that. As far as the training stuff. So when you say aftermarket, it's not really aftermarket. So where I'm at, I do have warranty privileges. So
I got you.
we actually do recalls for certain manufacturers. So like I just did a whole bunch of the cheap recalls, flashes, updates, stuff like that. Just did a bunch of the Ford Expedition brake line inspection, just all that kind of stuff. Now, when it comes to training, that's a whole nother story. We have access to a few of the, the generic OEM training modules, where you sit there and you click on the button and you listen to the video. But as far as like actual training, there is that, at least I don't know about it. They said that we can go, but in my location, it's just me and another guy that changes oil. So I'm doing recalls and diagnostics and repairs, and then on top of that, tires as well. So even if I wanted to go take training, they're not gonna let me go. Now, it's weird nowadays, especially where I'm at. So it's not like people don't really want to work on cars anymore. And the ones you do get, they come in the door and they, obviously you can tell when someone's lied in their resume about, oh yeah, I've worked on cars. I had one guy come in and introduce that, he had a degree in automotive technology. And I looked over, because I try not to, hover and be that kind of person. I want to see what you want to do, but I'm not going to let you hurt yourself either. So I kind of outside of my eye watch him, and the guy couldn't pick up a car. He with a 2-post lift, he couldn't pick the damn car up. Ended up bending a Dodge Hornet because didn't know where to put he couldn't find the pinch welds for the unibody.
Gotcha. I was going to say, did you put it on the rear suspension, like on the trailing arm?
On the damn door.
No kidding.
The only seam you could see. So the Hornet is whatever it is, but they cover the pinch welds. Yeah, it's trash. Don't buy one. Sorry.
Right.
They covered the pinch welds with more plastic covers. So unless you take the covers off of all four, but who's going to do that? It's pretty time consuming. So if you didn't know to look for the actual seam for the pinch weld, you would assume.
Exactly.
And of course, this guy, he was used to working at a fast-paced Jiffy Lube store that they just drive onto a on car ramp and, pick it up, drop the oil and call it a day.
Exactly.
I still can't believe that you would say, you have a degree and you're not taught how to pick up a damn car or look for a pinch wheel
Yeah.
or know the difference between picking up a car versus a truck and weight distribution and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. But
That's
I mean, it's hard to
that's one of
find
the things
people.
that that's one of the things that we focus pretty heavily on. I'm usually the first class that students get. So when they come in, that's one of the things that I try to focus on is, do all of you know how or have you ever lifted a vehicle? And then I'll run them through. And that way we don't really do like a shop, what would you call it? A shop lift, car lift safety. However, like I make sure that I have them all out there and we go through and make sure that they know how to lift the vehicle up and
Yeah,
where to
dude.
look for the triangles and how to find it in service information and all that kind of stuff. Cause that, like you said, if someone's got a 2-year degree in automotive, they certainly should know how to actually lift the vehicle up, especially something like a Dodge Hornet.
Yeah, you get a body. I'm not asking you to pick up a 2,500 diesel. I'm asking you to pick up
Right.
a body car. But yeah, I can't, not make sure that for one, the guy's safe, for two, I'm safe, and whoever's
Right.
around us is safe. So it is what it is. But I couldn't imagine being the guy who paid for the degree to,
Right.
you know what I
And
mean?
then not know how to do the most basic thing that you'll be doing all day long, all the time, maybe 6, 8
Yeah,
times a day in some cases.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
don't
pretty
even
wild.
care. Even if they say they have, I don't care. I'm still I'll let you try it. And I'm gonna say, look, this is not just, I'm not trying to, hover over you or anything, but this is where you got to think about this. This is your life under this car. I said, don't trust anybody who picks the car up for you, or don't take for
Right.
granted that the car is good. This is you under the car, your life. And I think we've all been there for, a second. We look, you're like, oh, you got the tripod going because, you know,
Oh, yeah.
you look back and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
don't
like, "Hey,
break.
it's not touching. It's not touching on the rear." Like, "Hello?" Yeah, I've
I've been
seen that.
there.
I've been
Oh,
there. I've
man.
done that. Yep.
Yeah, if you're that man and get going.
Yeah, some of the students, when we'll get the vehicle off the ground, and I usually get it about, I don't know, 6 inches off the ground, and I'll run around the back of it and just shake it as hard as I can, trying to actually
Try to
move
get
it
the
off the
ball.
lift or make noises and stuff, and they're like, "You're gonna knock it off the lift." I'm like, "That's the point. I wanna make sure that's not going to come off the lift. If I do this to it, and all I'm gonna do is an oil change or brakes or something like that, there's no way in hell it's gonna fall off if, I have it up there doing those things." So I always lift it 6, 8 inches and then do that. And they're like, "Man, that thing shook
Shake
all
that.
over the place." I'm like, "Yep." And that's what you
Yeah,
want
it
to do. I
moves.
was like you said, it's your life. You don't take your own life in your hands or somebody else's just because you want to have to be under that car half the day sometimes.
And here's the
You'll
big
be
thing
living there.
nowadays, you'll be there forever. But nowadays, everybody wears headphones. So when you're
Right.
picking a car up, are you going to hear the car slide? Are you going to hear that?
They
So you
probably
gotta you
won't.
gotta make sure. Yeah, you're not. Yeah, I mean, you gotta make sure that's safe and stuff. I started off picking up cars with one of the old school hydraulic center posters from the
Yeah. Air over hydro. I use those.
that it was just hydraulic, brother. This is just hydraulic. But it
Did
has
it
like
have
the
electric
platform.
have electric motor?
Nope. You,
It didn't have a like a handle on the wall?
maybe it was air. Yeah, maybe it was air.
Yeah, they're
It's
air
hard
over
to
hydro.
explain. But the thing was that the damn seals leaked.
Yeah,
So
they
we
leak bad.
and it was a junkyard, a salvage yard. They weren't going to pay to fix this shit. So what they do is they add more fluid and they give me a steel rim with a torsion bar welded to it to put under the base. Right. And these cars are wrecked. And some of these trucks are, the frames are
Right.
bent. So try picking up a damn, F-150, they hit a tree and now the frame is like this. And I mean, I've had ones where I got to chain the car to the lip where it doesn't fall on me. So
Exactly. Yeah,
in
you
there.
literally like bolt it to it with chain. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
dude.
You kind of hang
Yeah.
underneath it like, "Ah, I don't know if it's going to fall or
Yeah.
not." I worked at a place, a couple different places like that where we had air over hydro and we had one that same thing. It leaked really bad. We always had to add, a new hydraulic oil to it. But one day we were lowering a vehicle and it dropped like 6 inches real fast. Yeah, that, hitchy, snatchy
Mhm.
stuff. And it about dropped the vehicle off of it just because of that, just because it
Yeah.
jerked so hard. And then
Yeah. You have no control over that.
I watched a guy lift a truck one day and luckily it had a Reese hitch on the back of it. It was a 1500 series, regular bed, 8-foot bed, a Chevrolet square body, and got it up in the air, and he had it just right to where it actually fell backwards off the lift. And as it fell, it slid. And as it slid down, and it literally stopped like that, like the Leaning Tower of like C10, right? And we literally were able to slowly lower the lift down, and it did not damage anything on it. Like it hit the resitch and stopped, and then luckily the frame rails are the only thing that had scratches on them, didn't hurt anything. I couldn't believe it. I was like,
Try
you've
that.
got to be kidding me. That just happened, you know? And the guy that lifted it had just, because our air switches for that was on the wall. So he had just got it in the air, walked out the door of the shop, turned and walked across the back of it, and then walked back up towards the front of the shop. If he'd have done that a minute later, that truck would have fell and hit him. So yeah,
I'll tell you.
the lift safety, all that kind of stuff is huge in this industry. Like you said, though, I've never really had anybody on the pod that we've talked about earphones and using them at work. We teach at school, like you don't have your earphones on at all out in the shop. We don't let them use earbuds at all. But what I usually will allow them to do, which is a little outside of what we're supposed to do, but like I try to explain to them, like music's going to be your friend. So music is going to be somewhere where you can rely and you can go back to and you can listen to when you have a stressful day or when you have things going on. So I'll allow them to put the phone in their front pocket and then leave it at a reasonable level. And as long as I can't hear a bunch of stuff that I'm not supposed to be hearing, they shouldn't be playing there anyways, I'm fine with it. I don't care. And I usually will start class with like some heavy metal. So I'll actually like pull some YouTube up before this time to actually go to school. I'll pull some heavy metal up, some old Quiet Rider,
There you
some
go.
old Iron Maiden, and just
Yeah.
jam it out. I'll turn it. We don't have very loud speakers there, but I'll turn it all the way up. But what's funny is I'll do it, and then I'll walk out of the classroom and go to my office. I
Nice.
can still kind of hear it, but I'm trying to see what they're going to do, and like,
Yeah.
will someone have the cojones to get up and walk up there and just turn it down, right? Because if some of them will be in there, they'll have their earbuds or their earphones on, but I'm just waiting to see, like, are they going to shut it off? Will someone stand up and go up there and shut that down? And so far, I've
Figure
never
it out
really
before
had
they get to
anybody
a
do that.
shop. You
Yeah.
better figure it out before they get to the shop, because I'll tell you right now, if someone's playing something they don't like, there's been many times that I've seen people walk over there and smash someone's radio.
Well, yeah. And that's the
I
thing. And
told
that's
you
what I
once,
want to,
told you twice.
right. That's what I'm trying to teach them too. It's like the psychology of all of it, right? Like you're going to have to work with other people. So whether you like that or not, because the psychology of a lot of this stuff is a lot of people like things, a lot of people like people, right? And somehow I've been able to kind of straddle both sides of that. I don't mind talking to people, and I can do it. And I try to pride myself on making sure that I can talk to somebody in a pair of overalls, or I could talk to somebody in a couple $1,000 suit. And that's how I've always tried to make it, because especially if you're up front, you're going to have to do that. But like I tell them, like I've seen a guy get upset because people wanted him to turn down his preaching. He had a Christian radio station on in the mornings, and they would be preaching back there. And they're like, well, I walk by and I don't want to hear that. It's like, well, yeah, and I understand it's kind of loud, but like, who cares? Let the guy play his music. Let him play his preaching. It's no big deal. It goes off at 9 a.m. and then it would be Christian music. And then that was a problem, But like you said, I mean, I've seen, I can't recollect ever seeing anybody smash one, but I've definitely seen arguments over the radio a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, there's a way of
So,
doing it. So like when you say
yeah,
talking to, someone overalls versus the businessman, I try to make sure that I do it, and I do it in a way
right.
that I do it the same way with both.
Exactly.
Show respect in both ways. And yeah, of course you learn from, the people, and
Right.
just try to resolve things. But there's ways about
Yep.
handling situations.
Well, and
with radio.
you never try to talk down to people. You always ask the probing questions, right? Like, are you familiar with this system? Or you ask it in a nice way. It's like, hey, you don't ask, hey, dumbass, have you ever seen one of these before? You don't do that, right? But yeah,
Give
you're exactly
respect to
right.
get
I mean,
respect.
you end up having to be the same the entire time. It's extremely important. I would
Oh
agree
yeah,
with that.
genuine to yourself, and there's no reason to be that kind of way. But
Right.
yeah, man. And there's easy ways to just ask somebody nicely, and if they don't want to do it, then now you got to figure out a new way about it. And then that's when you just,
Right.
sometimes you chain of command, but there's worse things in it in the field. But yeah, it can be a little rough out there.
Yeah, there's definitely worse things in the industry about in people, what they listen to on the radio or how loud it might be. Usually it was always over the volume. It wasn't necessarily over what it was. Like that was only kind of one time. But like you're saying, like there's a way to go about like, hey, like I'm trying to work on this car and like today, like I'm not feeling it, like whatever you're doing over here, right? So I need
Well,
you to
shit,
turn it
maybe
down a
have a
little bit
speaking
so I can
rattle.
work.
And
What's that?
dealership likes we with you like dealership like me have a speaking rattle when I got your
But
shit
yeah,
playing in the back. I need it to be quiet. You already have air
yes.
guns going back and you have air guns going and tired. You're trying to hear this stuff, so just be
Yeah,
respectful
you're right. It's
and
it's
be
imperative you have some quiet so you can hear that kind of stuff.
yeah, man.
I got one here for you. So, as a component of the skills gap, do you think the country's facing a competency crisis? And
One hundred
to
percent.
add to that, does it especially and more significantly affect our automotive repair industry?
100%. If you cannot sit down and read service information for a certain DTC, if you can't sit there and read the cause and effect, if you can't sit there and learn the stuff and comprehend what they're trying to say, and don't get me wrong, some of the stuff, depending on who it is, it's written bad.
Right.
It,
It's
it,
definitely written
it's
bad.
it's written bad. I don't know if it's translations or what, but sometimes it's just to come out in context correctly. But you have to be able to comprehend what they're reading or what they're telling you. And if you're not able to do that and understand it, you're going to struggle really hard because without that, there's no way you're going to be able to fix these complex vehicles nowadays. I mean, just the time that I have invested in just learning about fair and power lift. I'm not used to that stuff, but I had to sit there and read about it. But yeah, like I don't like the whole attention span stuff and the way nowadays, I think they say it's like 10 to 15 seconds or something like that, that you have some, they can actually
It's
focus
the
on one thing.
it's the
Yeah, man.
TikTok generation.
Yeah, I don't even have that on my phone. Like
What
I don't
only
even
reason I got it was to promote this podcast, and I'm with you
same.
because I didn't have it
Yeah.
up until like two
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Right. Yeah. I don't care about the funny clips and shit. Sometimes it's nice. Sometimes it's fun to detach and shit. But when people are like literally consumed, and here's the bad things when they go home and you have a family and you're forgetting your kids over here because you're too busy scrolling on damn TikTok watching stupid videos. It's like, what are you doing? But yeah, reading comprehension, that's out the window because now we have the whole AI shit. You have to be able to write a story. Well, not anymore because now you just tell the computer what it did and it writes it for you. Fill in
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
blanks of connecting numbers and stuff like that. But it's
Word to
just
text.
yeah, I don't like it, man. I don't even mess with it honestly. I mean, I'm sure it's beneficial. Maybe one day I'll play with it. With Mario analysis. He was talking about how he was using Chat GPT to write certain stories and stuff. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I know that man can write a efficient story for a customer.
Exactly.
He knows what should be there, what shouldn't be there, and that kind of stuff. Now, if you can see the process, cool, go for it. But I don't think we should have, how many people rely upon that, because what are you going to do? Just live your life with, AI.
Well, that's the other side of that too, is like you may not always have that, right? And
Yeah.
if you can't do it on your own without that, then you've actually been detrimental to yourself, not the other way around.
Yeah, well, I see a lot of being able to read. Come on, it's like, you have to understand that kind of stuff. What happens when you start going to sign contracts and stuff for like adult things, buying a vehicle, reading contracts? You got to put that in Chat GPT too. Interest rates. You want to learn about
It's going to
that?
be tough. It's going to be tough at this point, huh?
Let me find a TikTok about interest rates. And
Right.
shit, you probably would. You probably would. I wouldn't trust it, but depends on who it is. Everybody, social media is good. Social media is bad. It gave a platform to everybody to have an opinion, and fortunately, sometimes not everybody should be able to voice their opinion.
Exactly.
Publicly to the masses
I tell
anyway.
you, I used it once, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago now. I had a former student reach out to me, was going through some stuff and I needed something quick. And I went to Grok on Twitter and I just put in this scenario and like what would be a really good, more like a cognitive behavioral therapy, kind of a, not a diagnosis maybe, or Like, what would you tell somebody if this was going on in their life, right? And I kid you not, Donald, this thing put together some of the better psychology stuff that I've ever read in
Give
about
you a
10
full
seconds.
synopsis. Yeah. I
Yeah, an
believe it.
entire
Yeah,
synopsis.
I believe it.
And I told the gentleman, I sent it to him and I said, "Hey, look, I read all this. It was a long read." But I was like, "I didn't write this. Hey, this is AI." I said, "But I put this scenario in and I put what was happening." And I said, "To be quite honest, this is some of the better stuff that I've seen that's been written to do after what's happened, right?" And I was like, "I want to find you some other resources though." And that's what I did later. I found a couple more things in about an hour that I was able to send to try to help. And I
Yeah, for
was
sure.
blown away at how good it was. And I've used it a couple times at school to like I'll put together I want the students to write an essay, which is outside of curriculum. That's not what we typically have them do. But for my course, they can either get 20 points taken away from them automatically if they don't participate, or I can give them 20 points to go on their grade that will be over and above, right? And I want to see where they're at with how they can write and communicate in a written form.
Sure.
And it's amazing to see what some of them have written. And I encourage the ones that have written them and done really well with the storytelling, even maybe not just so much the grammar part of it, but I encourage them. I'm like, go and open a Substack, go and write your thoughts down. Make sure you're keeping a journal. Do these things. Cause like that's one of the things I regret being almost a 50-year-old guy now. I regret not doing those things and not being able to look back over my life and be able to read those things and be like, oh, that's what I was feeling at this point. And then I was able to get through that. Right. So I think that's a huge thing when it comes to skills gap. You're 100% accurate. The reading and comprehension thing is out the door right now. I've dealt with, we'll call them COVID high school students at this point, who basically took school kind of like you and I are just having a regular conversation, but they had their cameras pointed to the ceiling and people didn't know if they were really in the rooms and that kind of stuff. And it shows because, like you said, with
Yeah, I've
just with the
seen it.
guy talking about putting a car on on a lift, like you could put whatever you want on your resume, but when it comes time to do the real work of it and you can't do it, then it's all make believe, right? But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, it's gotten pretty
And
bad
even
in the
then,
automotive industry.
I was like, maybe like you having them write an essay is a great idea because if you
Yeah.
think about it, cause, complaint, correction, that
Yes.
is an essay. Give
Yep.
me a synopsis of what the whole process is, especially if you're going to be doing want to work for a dealership. If you don't write that kind of stuff correctly or have it done right, you're not going to get paid what you could get paid. So do yourself a favor and learn how to at least put together a coherent sentence. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Give you a nice explanation of why should this customer spend this kind of money? You know what I mean? So,
Exactly.
and now they're all go on the
Once
damn
we
videos. So what's the matter? Like,
right. Once we get to that point, I always walk up really dramatically to the board. I just write on there story equals dollar signs. And then I
hey,
tell them,
that's it.
and I tell them it just like you said, if you don't story it properly, you're losing money. Why would you leave money on the table? Not only that, like my first week at Volkswagen, when I went to Volkswagen, it was hell. My warranty
I know they're terrible
administrator
about that.
was at my toolbox every morning. Hey, this
Fix
story
this.
that you wrote
Fix this.
yesterday, I need you to fix that. I can't even submit this. Like, and it's nice to have that person there because they're making sure that the business is making money. But they're also making sure you're not getting backflagged. And I can say happily that I never had that happen to me. However, it'd been threatened. Like I know that they've told me in the past, like, hey, if this doesn't straighten up, like you don't get to get paid. Like I can't send it to Volkswagen. We just did it for free. Parts get screwed, services getting screwed. The customer made out, but even then it's like it's part of the job. And I would do that and it was pretty bad for a week. And luckily Volkswagen actually has a class that they send new technicians to that's new to them. It's called diagnosis and documentation. And John
Sweet. That's
Craven,
actually awesome.
man, my trainer John Craven, he's out there somewhere. He did so well in Ohio that he had I don't know, we had like a 6 bay. kind of area and it's inside of a building that you would have thought it was like some CIA or DARPA place. It was all black and had black windows and stuff in it. But that's where Volkswagen done their local training. And we did that
SCT, baby.
training and it was amazing. He did so well there that they gave him some big place down in Houston or Dallas or something like that. But the guy was he was a double master, amazing teacher. Like that's one of the first places I was ever introduced to proper voltage drop testing, to be honest. Like I knew of it and it wasn't a big thing in the aftermarkets where I worked at, but man, the guy was sharp. I mean, just the sharpest knife in the drawer. He was a good dude.
Oh yeah, dude, I had a really good instructor from Lonnie. He was the first one to actually break down the effectiveness of voltage drop. It's one thing to
Right.
read about it. That's something totally different to actually watch it happen like firsthand. And the idea of actually a manufacturer having a course for, how to actually navigate through warranty is an amazing idea because they don't
Yes.
see that stuff when you walk in the door. You know, luckily
No,
for
and it was
me,
very beneficial.
yeah, dude. Luckily for me, I became friends with my warranty clerk. She was old school. She was kind of but she was fair with her, right? And as long as she didn't make her life difficult, she would help you out the best way she could. So like I had like 22 hours doing this. The Tacomas had a third brake light leak, and they made us gut the entire vehicle, remove the sound deadening and all this stuff. Have Pro come out and remove any kind of like particular like mold stuff or whatever. And this is all warranty. So
Right.
luckily I had got it earlier on, and they would give us straight pay. So whatever you had actually clocked in on the tickets, you would actually make out. So you would, come out 100%, time versus
Exactly.
you weren't getting. I didn't get screwed over on it. Now later on, my friend told me because he was still there, and I still got him. Or he was telling me how they were getting down to like 14 hours, and mind you,
Yeah.
you're gutting this truck, dude. Like it's ridiculous. I wouldn't go back.
Yeah. I had a situation like that actually doing the podcast with Ted Ings from Fixed Ops Roundtable. We had a really nice lady service manager on from it's upstate New York, I think, and she was a Honda service manager, and she
I'd have
told a
to watch
story
out
like
for
that
me.
about it was interior. It was I think it was a wiring harness that needed to be replaced, and partially interior. Most of the interior had to come out of the vehicle. I think it paid 8.1 hours, and when the campaign first started, and then just a couple months into it, it dropped all the way to 4. It was like 4 hours.
You know why?
Well, most of it's time that was being run on it. People weren't running time on it. That's usually the first thing that they see.
Yeah. And then two, you had the guy who's trying to get famous on TikTok or like whatever, and he's like, "Here,
Right.
why do you beat this recall? Stop
Yeah,
doing that shit, guys. Stop
I
doing
seen a
that shit. No one
post.
cares. You can do it fast. We all can do it
Right.
fast. Same shit over and over. Yeah, dude.
I seen a
Okay.
post. I seen a post on Facebook the other day. It was the same thing, and everybody was like kind of jumping on it and saying the same thing. You're right. It's like there are some jobs. I mean, I own a car right now that has a job on it that you can do in maybe 45 minutes or an hour. And book time, when I left the dealership, book time was 5 hours on it because they're expecting you to take the transmission out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
that. So,
Airbags for 400 take 3.5. You know how long it
right,
takes? I'm not going to tell you.
probably 25 minutes.
I'm not going to tell you.
I'm
It
not
took
going
me
to tell you.
It took me 3.5 hours.
Right. And that's the
So
thing too.
done
It's like
correctly.
some dealers, I've only ever heard of one dealer that lets you run time on 2 different vehicles at the same time, but almost everywhere, you don't run time on 2 vehicles. You can run time on
Yeah.
one line and that's it.
Yeah.
And
So luckily
honestly,
we had claws, so you could kind of,
oh yeah.
but
Yeah.
it
So
still has days.
I didn't work at the dealer when that was a thing. Once I got there, it was all digital, but I did have jobs where the time clock was that way. You had to put the paper in and you stamped it. And yeah, I've had a couple,
Actually,
probably 4 or
you could
5
change
jobs
it.
like that.
You
Yeah.
could change the time on it. Oh yeah, been there, done that.
Right.
Not me personally, but I've heard of it.
So the next one I got, pretty easy. Either you do or you don't, or maybe it's somewhere in the middle. But do you pay attention to politics, local, national, especially where it might follow like regulations or Congress or something to do with our industry?
When it comes to our stuff, as far as the industry, I do listen to those. When it comes to like United States and all that kind of stuff, I believe in that you can have your own opinion. I think that you should form your own opinion by gathering information from both sides. But that's how I approach every single thing. I'm not closing-minded off. Just because you believe in something and you believe in something doesn't mean that you're wrong or that I'm right. I like listening to everybody's stuff, gather all the information, and then form my own opinion about it, right? And when it comes to the politics stuff, I'm not one of those. I don't have time to get on Facebook and that's not with it. You're wasting your time, and it's pretty much just people just
Yeah.
talking nonsense.
I'm
But I do
typically
get
not
on
one
the
to get into the internet fights either, or even start them,
you're
or
gonna
even
lose. You're gonna lose.
no.
You're gonna lose. You're gonna
Yep.
lose. I don't have time to sit there with trolls and shit. Like you have nothing better with your day. You and
And now we have issues where people are living their entire lives on it.
wait till we have the really good VR headsets that we don't like the glasses and like straight
Right.
internet stuff. But no, there's no way. Like go touch
Once
grass.
we get off into the Matrix area
Yeah, we're right
where
there,
we're
but
just living in pods.
yeah,
I mean, at some point, so far, I would say that movies have been able to tell the future better than any seers probably in history. Because, like, there are people now joking about Top Gun, the latest Top Gun Maverick. Like, how did they know that that's what we was going to do and bomb the way that we bombed in Iran? And I'm like, I never even thought of it. I never even remembered. And I have it on my Amazon account right now. Like, I could go watch it, but I had forgotten all about it. But
because they
apparently
already had a
that's,
game plan back in
yeah, it's like,
game
yeah.
plan
And it's
back in
like,
1974.
right. It's so crazy, right?
Don't
It's
don't
amazing.
trust don't trust what you see. I mean, you see them releasing the documentations for JFK and MLK, and
Right.
we already knew that. We already knew it.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. They never really released all of it, right? They keep all the parts that would really, give away the game. They keep all of that stuff under wraps. They don't actually tell you
Yeah,
exactly what happened. They don't tell you who. They always allude to it. And there's some people that are in the media, one of them being Tucker Carlson, that apparently has had people come to him,
yeah,
in
yeah. Death threats.
in in confidence, and then letting him know that, like, yeah, the CIA did do this and here's what happened. And, I mean, the way that it happened and how it went down and how the country has changed significantly since that date. One can't really logically put together the facts and then say that we're not the same country anymore, right? Because we're not. Like, before 63, we were a different country. And now, if you go back through and you just read the Communist Manifesto and look at the 10 planks of communism, we're on like 8 of them. We have like 8 of them in place. So yeah, the stuff that I typically look at is, I'm with you. I try to stay really closed in on, like, the right to work, like the unions thing is one thing. And then the other one, of course, is right to repair. The stuff that's going on in our industry that seems to have been festering and ended up happening in John Deere, of all places, coming in
Started.
and saying that if you touch your vehicle, it's going to be out of warranty, and we're not going to warranty it at all. And some of these tractors are $400,000 or $500,000. So it's
Yeah, that's
crazy that you would
low
buy
end.
a piece of equipment and not be able to weld something back together that might have broke or anything like that.
Because
So that's the kind of
you
stuff I
touch
usually pay
this,
attention to.
right? You touch this. You know, it's like the whole ever since this now my radio don't work, but you
Right.
just changed my tire, that kind of stuff. It's like
Yeah.
how can you justify that kind of crap?
The
But
Mr. and Mrs.
this
Ever
makes
Since, I
sense.
used to call it.
Oh yeah, but I want to say Keith Buckers is on the board for that, right? And he's leading the charge for it. And I
I
mean,
think that sounds right. Yeah.
he's doing a lot of big things on that side and stuff. And it sucks for him to catch a bunch of slack when people don't understand that he's really just trying to help everybody out. It benefits
Right.
all of us.
Well, see,
I'm not
this,
fellowship.
from what I remember, this fight's already happened in the automotive industry a long time ago,
What?
because there was a lot of people that wanted to do their own oil changes. And the manufacturers were coming along and saying, no, if you even touch the car, we're not going to extend that same warranty on that vehicle. And then they went to court, and everything that I've ever been told so far has been, if you do your own oil changes or you have it done somewhere else, as long as you have the documentation and it had the correct oil put in it and a good quality filter, that they cannot deny you your oil, your warranty on your vehicle.
I'll tell you right now, buddy, you know, since, you know, we're chasing fuel economy and we're using, you know, the cheaper quality parts and cheaper quality fluids, and we are, when the manufacturer tells you that it's okay for your engine to burn 3 quarts in between service intervals, someone's trying to cover their ass. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's what it is. You know,
And even
we still have Malibus in our fleet, so you can't go buy a Malibu in the general public, but they still make them for fleets, right? It's the 1.8 turbo, something like that, one of those engines. But the engine's trash. The turbos are trash. The shit, like the vacuum pumps for the brakes, trash, and they all blame it on service intervals. Well, guys,
sure,
like it only takes 4.4 quarts, 4.2 quarts oil. The light's set to go off at 7,000 miles or however long it says it's supposed to go off of.
sure,
No, guys, no. The camshafts are faulty. The PCV system in the vehicle is faulty. That's why it's blowing out rear main seals at 10,000 miles. It's
right.
just a shit piece of, it's a shit car, dude. You know, y'all messed up. Own up to it, you know,
A
but
lot
don't
of
fight
that
it too.
stuff, a lot of that stuff, and if you know this, or this is just pure conjecture, but a lot of this stuff seems to be Opel. Like they're taking the Opel stuff that they've used in other countries and they're putting it in vehicles that are here. They have an extension, like GM has an extension with Opel, and they've had it for a very long time. And it's like they seem like they're taking the Opel or the Atlas or whatever they're using, and they're bringing it and putting it in vehicles that are used here in America. And you're right, a lot of them are shit.
Well, look at the Jeep Compass. Look at the Jeep Renegade. Fiat trash.
Yeah, is that the
Like
2 liter
legit.
multi-air?
I couldn't tell you what the hell it is, man. I just know that
I've dealt with a
don't buy
couple
one.
multi-airs in my day, and it's the variable valve lift type of stuff also.
Is it
And
really?
the president of our school actually drives one, and I had it in, and it had a kept doing a random misfire, and somebody else in another class had put 4 brand new coils and 4 spark plugs in it, and they made the mistake of putting aftermarket coils on it, and I was able to get the vehicle to do it, and it's just like a 2-year-old vehicle, you know, maybe 3 at the most. I was able to get it. I could duplicate the customer's concern. I could make it do what it was doing, and I could test it using the cylinder balance with the scan tool, and I was able to figure out which cylinder it was. And when I pulled the coil out and looked at it, I'm like, these are just some junk. Like, where the hell did they even get these from?
Chinesium. Yeah.
Yeah. So I found out that they had supplied them. They'd gotten them from O'Reilly's, and the senior guy on the floor, Jim, I told him to come over. I was like, hey, I said, I don't know who bought these for this vehicle, but like this vehicle's 3 years old. I said, this vehicle's got microchips on top of the coils. Like, what the hell are we doing putting O'Reilly's coils on this thing? Plus, it's the president of the school's vehicle that his daughter or his wife was driving. Like, let's go down to the local Chrysler and Dodge and Jeep dealership, get the proper
Dude.
stuff for it. I pulled the spark plugs out, made sure they were at least, of a quality brand, and they were. So I put them back in, put it all back together. 2 days later, we had the coils for it, and I never seen it again. They never brought it back. So to me, that means it's fixed. They never took it to another area in the school either. So I'm like,
Yeah.
why
If
would
it
you
was
do
broken,
anything
you
with
wouldn't
the
heard about it.
yeah, I would have definitely heard about it. That's
You
true,
would have heard
right?
about it.
And doesn't matter if
This is
you're an
your job.
instructor at a school or if you're out in the world fixing them. If it doesn't fix it, you will hear
If
about it. That's
someone
true.
if someone's pissed, someone's pissed, dude. You know, oh,
Yep.
you told me you're going to fix it. So, but yeah, and I'll tell you right now, when it comes to the Chrysler products, I mean, I saw Paul Danner get his ass whooped by a crank sensor, you know,
Oh, yeah.
because the aftermarket crank sensors on these things, the tone that you'll never catch it if you're not using a scope, but
Right.
just they're very slight, very slight. And what sucks is that they called the right part, but because of the fact that the parts were so shitty, you can't trust them, it goes down the rabbit hole. So, I
Right.
mean, and
I
nowadays,
always I
what
always
scares
teach
me,
anymore that you really need to put a quality factory part back on a car, especially if it's within 5 years old. Only
yeah,
because you don't want to be part of that initial Lean Six Sigma bunch of parts that come out of somewhere that are junk, right? Because they're not
dude,
meeting quality standards. They're not, they're brand new, maybe. You're dealing with the bugs, And I always teach, like, you have to put good quality parts back on the car because if you don't, it can bite you on your ass, right? And like,
it's going to bite you in the ass.
why would you want to spend hours working on the vehicle and only to send it out and have it come back 3 days later with a very similar or the same problem?
See why cover your ass,
Yeah.
and no one has time for comebacks, guys, and especially if
Nope.
you're on flat weight. Like now, you just lost your ass.
I teach that too. I call it putting the robe on. I heard that from another training class I was in a long time ago. I can't even remember who did. I think it was, might have been Dwayne Throckmorton. He used to teach for Napa and used to teach for a place called Reville Wholesale. And he was an old boy from West Virginia. And he used to teach Fat Man Diagnostics too. I usually teach that at school also. Fat Man Diagnostics is where it's where you don't bend too good in the middle, and you might as well use a scan tool as much as you possibly can and figure out, look at the
Yeah,
easy things first before you
yeah,
go off, looking for, oh, it's got hoof beats. Let's go look for zebras everywhere, right? Like, why don't you look for thoroughbreds first? That would be the smart thing to do. So I try to teach a process that says start with the easiest stuff first that you can get to, and then maybe branch off and go to some other things, right?
for sure, man. So like, I watch a lot of the. I have a select group of automotive repair video, people
Right.
that I actually watch. Not I watch the stupid, gimmicky. We all know what we're talking.
Right. The Scotty Kilmers, the Chris Fixes, all that kind of stuff. I know what you're talking about.
And then the asshole that took the car to the shop and tried to pull it over on the shop and try to say the shop was bad because of he fucking took off the O-ring on his gas cap. Thanks, asshole. Appreciate it. And didn't get charged.
Our local news stations used to do that shit for like slow
It
news
happened.
days.
It happened
Yeah.
here, and my buddy John Baker was the only one. He was the only one that actually said, "No, guys, y'all just left it unplugged. It's fixed
Yep.
here."
I had a
That shit's
vehicle.
real.
I'll never forget it, Donald. I had a vehicle come in one time at the Goodyear store where I worked at for the longest period of my entire life. It was about 8 years. And the vehicle come in, plain misfire, very easy to figure out, very easy to hear. I drove it in the building, and ticket only said on it, vehicle idles rough at, sitting still, especially it's really bad in gear. I get it inside, I start looking at it. Number 3 spark plug wire was just hanging. It wasn't attached to the spark plug at all. I immediately went straight up front and told my manager and the owner, I said, I need you to come out here for a second. He goes, what? I said, I just want you to see this. This is how I found it. I said, I don't know if we're being set up. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why it would be unplugged. But the reason it doesn't run on all 6 cylinders is because number 3 spark plug wire is laying like loose in space. So he sees it. He has a camera that he had up front back in the old days of like the cheap DSLRs. Took a quick photograph. Yeah, exactly. Took a quick photograph of it, took it back up front, and he called the customer. And I went ahead and put the spark plug back on it, verified that took care of it. And it did. And they came and picked it up. I don't know whatever became of the car. I know we didn't charge him anything. I literally found it in about 28 seconds. I mean, just a quick visual inspection, which is another thing I think a lot of people still just overlook. Just a quick visual inspection most of the time, especially if somebody's DIY'd it, or like you just mentioned, maybe somebody's trying to set someone up. You got to look at the car, like visually
Yeah.
look it over.
So like you're saying, as far as like Fat Man Diagnostics, so the guys that I watch, most of them preach like Sean Tipping, Automotive Diagnostics podcast. Spend time in the driver's seat, and they all preach the same shit. Like, what can I figure out in the driver's seat before I start chasing
Right.
down this and that and that? But when it does come to the power of visual inspection, you sit in the car, okay, airbag lights on, you pull it up, okay, now you get you get your fault, okay, oh, passenger side seat. Am I going to go pull up search information to go see exactly what the hell's going on, or am I going to stick my head up under the car passenger seat, see if someone has shit shoved up under the seat and the wire came undone? You'd be really surprised what you can knock out. Oh, hey, is the gas cap actually even on the vehicle?
Right.
Pull the shit, go check it real quick, and okay, well, at least we know that. I mean, shit, if you would have gave me if you would have changed the O-ring on me, I mean, I touched so many different kind of vehicles, mix and models on that damn O-ring, especially like on the gas cap. Unless it was like blatantly wrong, like almost like you could see witness marks of where they had to jam it in there or something. But yeah, that's shit. That's just there's
On the gas cap thing with the place, getting set up and all that kind of thing.
dude,
It's really funny to me. The thing that David pulled up was like, well, what if they pulled up and they had the gas cap laying in the back seat? And the first thing I thought was like, well, that person would have to be insane. Like, what the hell is the gas cap doing laying in the back seat, right?
oh, they must have replaced it. They must have
Yeah,
got a new one.
exactly. But you
I'm
can
like,
guarantee
oh
they put
shit.
some stamped some stamped brand thing that they got at the AutoZone or
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
teach that. Like if that car's got a gas cap on it, go spend the $60 on the gas cap. Put
Shit, it's
the
not even that
factory
much money,
part.
getting
Yeah,
unless it's like
put
a
the
damn,
cap, put it on
crazy
there.
car.
You're going to spend more money because of your time's got to be worth something, right? You're going to spend
Mm-hmm.
more money and time running back and forth to the parts store, telling them it's wrong, telling them it doesn't work, whatever. And then all of a sudden, it's like you could have fixed it and been done with it for $55.
Right.
Like
Go
some of them
to
are expensive. I agree, but
really?
it's more
Are they?
expensive just to keep messing with it and not ever actually fix it.
'Cause I know I had to replace one on a it was a Suzuki XL7 that
Hmm.
but it's a GM engine, power plant, really good car. Went and got a GM part for it, for the gas
Yes.
cap, because you can't trust that the market parts. And then what really sucks is like in that situation with the whole setup, like you set up an EVAP system. And this guy who made this video or did the setup, he has no idea how complex that some of these EVAP systems really and what it takes to actually diagnose it. What if that guy would have broke out the smoke machine and started smoking the damn whole asset? Now I got to get in the scan tool. I got to close this vent valve. I got to do this. Or what if it's a Prius and you have no idea how this EVAC system is because it has a damn bladder inside the gas tank for it. Like if you don't, it's just not fair. I'd have been okay with a bad pin fitment on a coil or something something like that. But that's just a dick way to
Something that's more true to life. The whole gas cap thing is it's a bad thing to do anyways.
Yeah, half the time people will drop off the shit because they're too busy staring at the damn phone. I pull up the gas pumps and have people just drive off with the shit still attached to the tank or to
But yeah,
the gas pump and haul ass, and now you got the shit just going everywhere. I was like, there's better ways of doing things, guys. And if you want to find out if you're stuff's reputable, just if you want to find out if your repair shop's lying to you or not, just take to somebody else. Get a second opinion.
right.
Don't just jump on it. But
I had
yeah, I just think it's
one of the
nonsense.
stories I always tell in classes. I had a young lady that had a Kia Forte, and she had it to a local Firestone store, and they looked at it, and I guess there was a TSB for number 3 injector because it was GDI, and they had replaced number 3 injector for this issue, and it still run really, really bad. Basically, you would start it up, and it would run okay for about the first, I don't know, between 60
Oh, I know what
seconds
you're
and
talking
maybe,
about. There's a
yeah,
software update for it. That's the fix for
yep.
software update.
Well, of course, the Firestone couldn't do the software update, so they sold the lady the injector, and it was about a $400 ticket. And when I got to the vehicle, I could do the cylinder balance. I could find out that all cylinders were being affected by what was going on. And I went in and found out that the lambda numbers were way off, like way off. And if you unplugged it, it got a little bit better. So I went and I explained to
Yeah,
her with the
I see
scope.
how
I
you did it.
watched it and I told her, I was like, this is not okay. This thing's going, I can't remember, it was going down to like 8. So it was like 0.8, 0.9, and it was staying there. So I'm like, it's
Yeah.
doing everything it can to lean itself back out, and you're getting no fuel. And I was like, that's the issue. That's why it's running so poorly. I mean, it sounded like it had a giant camshaft in it, like some kind of race car camshaft.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Oh yeah.
explained to her, here's what I need to do. I got to put an AFR in it. So I put an air fuel ratio sensor in it for her, made sure that fixed it. Everything went back. It went back to 1, and it stayed there. And then you could actually drive it at that point because it was so bad you couldn't even drive it.
It
So
probably
I
got fouled
explained to
out.
her,
That's what
what's
sucks
that?
about it. It probably got fouled out. That's what sucks because of the
Well,
fact
and
that
that's, yeah,
because of the engineering or the software that is whatever
right.
you want to call it. Let's call it the map. The map for the car is so shit. You drove it for so long. Now all that raw burnt shit's hitting the last O2 or whatever, cause an effect. And that's what sucks is that y'all don't, some people don't understand that, what came first, the chicken or the egg. Even if you went in the software update before you replaced that bad sensor, you still want to fix the car because the sensor got destroyed because of the poor
Exactly.
software.
And that's
It's
kind of
just
what I told her. I said, I can't justify why it would be that they would sell you an injector, to be honest, because I read the TSB. They had the TSB number listed at least. And, but also the other thing that was weird was like on the paperwork, there was no diagnosis. Like they had
no,
written down nothing.
no
Basically, it
story,
was
nothing.
nothing at all. It was number 3 injector replaced due to TSB. That's it. And I'm
They
like,
place
well,
electronics.
what did they find? You know, like, I don't even understand what they found. That's the thing. Did they just find a TSB? Because they thought maybe it had a misfire, and maybe the
Yeah.
misfire is, maybe it was misfiring, right? I don't know. But like I explained to her, if I replace one component and I can go and drive your vehicle now and it works like it's supposed to, and you had it there and you spent $400 on it and you didn't really get a diagnosis and you didn't really get the part that you maybe needed, like, I would at least take it back and explain to them, A, you're dissatisfied with the service that you got, and you feel
Refund,
like as a
please.
consumer, you deserve a refund. And they gave the lady back her $400.
Thank
So
God for that.
she ended
See,
up
I'm
paying
not that kind of
$400
person.
total, because by the time I got the AFR and the diagnostic and everything, it was about the same money. So at least what she got back was pretty commensurate to what I end up having to charge her to fix the car. And it's stories
See,
like that I try to share in class, because at the end of the day, I mean, that vehicle was somebody's liberty. You know, it's their um, second most expensive investment. So it's
not
like,
even a benefit. It's a damn,
yeah,
yeah, it's a damn, yeah, it's, you have to
it's a
have it,
necessity in many cases, right? They have to
Yeah.
have it.
Well, it's a
And
liability.
I teach, you're the person that is the person that could stand in the gap between them being able to take their kids somewhere, or be able to go get groceries somewhere, or anything, right? Or even be able to get away from an abusive
Just,
relationship or whatever. You're the
it's just,
person that's, you stand in that gap. And if you try to humanize it like that, it seems like a lot of times students start to understand it. I just had one reach out to me that didn't seem like he really liked diagnostics at all after this last class that just kind of graduated my class. And he's like, you know what? How do I fast track? How do I find a way to get into doing diagnostics and in a proper way? And I said, well, the best thing that you can do is finish out what you're doing now and take upon yourself even more work than you're doing now. But then when you go to like a career fair, you have to ask the correct questions. You got to be direct about it. And you have to ask them, does your dealership provide, or does your, mom and pop, or, your chain store, do they provide a fast track to become a diagnostician? You want to be a diagnostic guy. You want to be that person. And I'm like, you need to ask them that. If they don't, then you need to move on to another dealer. You need to find out how long your mentorship is. Because if your mentorship is not long enough, it's not worth going there. And you're not going to get the proper training by somebody that's done it for a long time.
if your mentor ain't worth the shit, then what's the point?
Right.
If your
And
team
that kind
leader's
of brings
trash,
me, that part of it
yeah.
brings me to James. I watched the video that you
Oh,
sent
yeah.
me,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and the guy
Yeah.
at the
James.
junkyard that taught you quite a bit, it seems like.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah,
Someone that caliber, someone that's
share a little
skilled.
bit about James with everybody that's listening. And also, is James still with us?
Jay's still, you still with us. He just didn't want to be, I reached out to him whenever I was asked about it. And I asked him if he
Sure,
wanted to be part of the podcast, be in the video. And I really wanted him to do it, but he, he's very introverted.
sure.
He just didn't want to get, he want to be on camera.
Remember,
He didn't want,
it
yeah.
comes back to liking things more than liking to deal with people, right? It's
Yeah,
exactly
he's not
right.
on
A lot,
social media. He doesn't give a shit
right?
about the whole. Yeah,
Sure.
he wants to fix
I
cars and be
think
done with it.
I think it's a great story, to be honest, because it's what the country is actually lacking at this point, is men and women that can take people under the wing and do apprenticeship, right?
He didn't have to. He didn't even have to. And
Sure.
see, and that's just it. It wasn't an apprenticeship. I didn't have an apprenticeship, and that honestly, dude, I've never been anywhere where I had an apprenticeship or even had the ability to get that. It's pretty much okay. There's your bay. Here's your ticket. Go have at have at it. Figure it out. But so like James, uh, he was the in-house mechanic, right? So it was a salvage shop. Uh, ship the cars, fully ship them. It's not a you pull the yard. You don't get to go and walk around and whatnot. If the customer wanted to go, look at a car for a specific like interior car or something off the wall, then we had yard trucks that we could take customers out there and stuff. But the engines and transmissions all get pulled out before the car goes. They go on a but they'll so we sold the used engines and transmissions, and they were given
Mhm.
the option to have it installed in house. So we had three. So we had the strip shop over here, and then we had the mechanic shop, which it was just him, and it was three
Right.
two-post bays, and it was just him. So So he would spend time doing, he would work on our service vehicles if we needed it, work on delivery trucks that needed it, but also putting in used motors and transmissions.
Sure.
I was 19 at the time, and I mean, hell, I played around and fixed my neon a few times.
Sure.
I needed that job, and it just happened. I fell into this thing.
Exactly.
But
That's how a lot of us end up in it, right?
I like
Fixing our own
cars, and
stuff.
I like puzzles, dude.
Right.
Pouring crazy a little bit, but I like puzzles. I need answers. But the whole way it started was I just walked through there one time, and he was working on. He was trying to figure out an issue with engine he just put in. I want to say he was checking the timing or cam crank correlation, probably like a 3600 or 3800 series. But this is the first time I ever seen a pico scope. And this is 15 years ago. And I didn't Fox, and then he was doing all this. I'm like, dude, I don't know what any of this stuff is, and I was like, hey, what are you doing? And he just told me about it. I was like, oh, shit, that's cool. He's taking voltage and turn that into a picture, and it's at 20,000 milliseconds. 20,000 milliseconds. Like, that's just amazing. But ever since then, man, it was funny because he was always like, don't get in the field. Don't get in the field. Go get an office job. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm doing this. And now I'm like, shit, did I get my tenants or something? Get over my hands like a clink teeth. But no, man, he was good. Like, if I had questions about certain things or just to shoot shit with, life lessons, that kind of stuff. I didn't get a whole lot of like hands-on training with him because I still had a job to do, right? But on my lunch break, I would go sit with him. And I remember watching him, on his lunch break going through, what was the old forms? Is that ATN, ITN or something like that? One of the old forms.
IATN, International Automotive Technicians Network.
It was one that you had to pay to be a part of and something like that.
That was Scott Brown's thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So he would be on his lunch break going through that shit and answering questions and reading up on things. If he wasn't doing that, and he had, we had people, so it's down on Highway 17. It's just a bunch like a hodgepodge of like good old mom and pop garages and used car lots and stuff like that. Well, you got to think all these guys are coming to get used parts. Well, they all find out that James is, that good. Now they're going to start asking questions when they can't figure out stuff. So, I mean, I literally sat there and listened to him tell a guy, check this, see what happens. And just, he didn't even see the damn car, like it was just like next level kind of stuff. You ever see that text? Just like,
it's when you become a car Jedi.
Dude.
Right.
Yeah.
They just kind of know. Right. No, I'm not either. I always actually tell people I'm not fixing your shit over the phone. It's not happening.
No, bro. So, I'm terrible at this shit. Don't ask me to fix anything.
Not. I mean, I could do that. I could tell you some things to go look at, right? But I'm not. Even if it did fix it, I'd still give them the credit. Hey, you're the one that did the work. You're the one that figured it out, not me.
Yeah, it was good, man. He was the one that gave me the idea. So when I started off there, I was literally picking up trash and breaking down used tires, for the rents and shit. And then I got to move up to actually pulling parts, for customers, whatever, go out there. It'd be like, you go up there, you get a ticket, and the customer wants you to go get the brake booster. So you go down there and you pull the brake booster off or whatever it may be, and then come back up and, rinse and repeat. Did that for a little bit, and then went to actually shipping the cars. And then he was the one that gave me the idea. He was like, well, when you get better at this shit, why don't you, instead of being like everybody else, cut shit and all this, why don't you start taking your own car? So, I mean, I got really good at ship cars, fast as shit, as you get, incentivized. Right. But then I started to slow down a little bit, and okay, I'm not going to cut the exhaust this time. I'm gonna strip that shit and have it all, I'm going to take it apart. I'm going to do it correctly. That way, if I did have to put this car back together, now I'm getting hands-on practice of actually R&R. I might not be going back together with it, but if I can get the sucker out, it's usually easier to go back in. You know what I mean? The hard part's getting the shit out of there.
That's exactly right.
So
you were the guy that would unplug the wiring harnesses instead of just cutting them in half.
Yes, sir. So that's why I learned how to unplug the old Volkswagen connectors, the damn tricks. The bastards, holy shit. Yeah, I'm the guy with the pick sitting there, with each, how you got to connect tabs with the wire loom to hold it in place. I'm the guy with the pit fucking But that's quality, you know. That's how many times have you worked on someone's car and you've seen the harnesses just routed incorrectly, or shit just hanging
I
there, or all the
used to
push
see it a
pins are
bunch.
broken. I hate that
You're
shit. Like,
right.
don't beat that guy. You shouldn't
Yep.
have accidents happen, dude. But damn, not if you just, I mean, how
I
much
can't tell
faster
you.
is it?
I think I changed 5 ignition wiring harnesses while I was at Volkswagen from that kind of thing, where a lot of it was DIY. The people that were lurking on the forums, I used to call it, but you would go to try to like take stuff apart, and hell, it was tore all to hell. Like you said, sometimes they come in and be misfiring because the connector couldn't stay on the coil any longer. They'd had it,
Yeah, this
apart
is
that
that,
many times, it was junk. But yeah, I
dude.
used to see that quite a bit.
That old Volkswagen connectors, like, what in the hell? I had to sit there and like analyze it to figure out how to even get it to work. You know what
The
I
old
mean?
Japanese ones that had the wire, you pop the
It
spring
was
wire out of
weird.
them and pull it.
Maybe, I
Those were
don't know.
fun
They
too.
have like a little square. You can't. There's no tab
Yep.
on it. You have no idea what the hell to push on it. Do I push? Do I pull? Do I have to bite my
Slide the
lip?
wire. We always slid the wire off of it and just pulled it off. If you slid the wire off of them, you could pull them off pretty easy for the really old ones. But the ones that
Really?
were just plastic and you had to like push down just right, and you had to catch it just right, and then you could push in on it a little bit and push it down, you could hear it pop, and then
Yeah.
you could pull it
Gotcha.
off. But
Right.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
for what they are, there is a tool that Volkswagen makes for those, believe it or not.
I'm
But
sure there is.
I never used one. Even when I worked at Volkswagen, I never used one. You could use your fingers, or you could use a pick and get it just right. You
Yeah.
could pop them loose. No real
That tool's
reason to
called.
do the actual tool. And usually it was never, if you went to go get special tools, for the most part, most of the special tools were in somebody else's toolbox. Yeah, that you couldn't find them anywhere. You didn't have to worry about that.
A decent, really good. I say really good. I'm okay, but that's how I learned how to unplug certain things and how to. But that's the kind of stuff that I preach now to, like. So I have a guy change his oil when, and if I'm doing something that's a little more intrusive, or something, or replacing a part, I try to say, hey, come here real quick. Let me show you this trick. Instead of you just prying the shit out of this
Right.
clip, look back here, these two little tabs, press one in, pull, press this one in, and it literally it's 2 seconds. And then it looks so much better. Imagine the customer paying to have his engine replaced. He's already pissed about
Exactly.
that. And then he pops his hood, and every single one of his harness looms is broke shit, And now the harness is rubbing against a rough spot. And 2 years later, he rubs through a damn 5-volt reference wire. Now what? Well, you just put this engine in, it's still under warranty. People, it's hard. You have good doctors and you have shitty doctors. You have good techs and you have terrible techs. People that actually care about what they do and how they don't. The way I try to tell everybody that I've ever had to train would be like, I treat this car like it's someone's car. Like, she's still paying for it, and I want her to be safe. And I also want to provide the best quality of service that I can, because I want the next person, whoever it is, to open the hood, to ask for on the car, and to never know that I was actually there. But I try to do. It's not always possible, but I do the best I can. At least I put all my damn push bits back in the car, all the plastic ones. Or put the damn cover back on top of the engine, the vanity cover or whatever. It's a few extra seconds. And I understand flat rate shit, but there's a take pride in your work. Take pride in your work, because your name's on that car, dude.
Right. I'm so glad you said the word, because now that we've fixed all the world's problems and we've gotten to this part of the podcast, let's throw out compensation for technicians and pay structures, we'll call it. So flat rate, it's always talked about. I've mentioned it before that me personally, I never made more money than when I was on flat rate, but I had a decent work ethic and I had a good system. You have to have those two things. If you don't, then it's kind of a recipe
Also,
for disaster.
workflow coming in, good service
Yes.
writers,
Yep.
good customers, good quality brand. There's a lot of variables. Not too many cherry picking assholes. Taking all the gravy work.
I call that
You know.
interpersonal politics. Yep. That's exactly right.
There's a reason why I left the dealership, and I won't go back to that place until that dude's gone. And honestly, my friend, my bandmate Chris Burr, the guy that worked next to me, he was NDT, whatever you call him, master chair or whatever.
Sure.
He stayed
Like
there 3 or 4. Yeah, whatever. It's just that the highest rank they have. Yeah, NDT master. So like I was expert and I was waiting. I just needed more tenure to go to NDT, but
Exactly.
I was done. But he stayed
I've
around and
taught with a guy that used to teach the T10 program out in Spokane, Washington. That's why I was asking. He was
okay, so
master.
I see what you're saying. So
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
whenever I went through the program, they called it something else. It was called
Yes.
it was some kind of fast track program. But yeah, that's the one they put me in. I was going to damn Jacksonville every other weekend for training. It was awesome. I had a great time and learned all the, you meet all the field service technicians and tech support, and you become friends, especially if you show interest when you're there. They actually will take a liking to you and help you out. So when your ass is stuck on something, you can just say, hey, I need help. You get to skip the line kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So politics is one of those things. Flat rate, just like you. That was the most money I ever made in my life. But I also worked my ass off. I was probably there at least 50 hours a week, at least, if not more. A lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, a lot of days.
And sometimes, according to the system, you might work 50 and you might actually turn 40.
And depending where you're at, yes. And that's why I quit my very first automotive job, because I didn't even know what the hell flat rate was. I just heard, oh, we'll give you this for flat rate. I'm like, okay. What flat rate was. And then I get that
You just
paycheck. I'm like,
walk
oh, this
into
is
it blind,
bullshit.
huh?
Yeah, dude. I mean,
Right.
I was, yeah, okay. It's like coming in on your day off to do a used car because I can go in and make 7 hours and only be there for two, yeah, I mean, it's good money, dude. If it's good money and a good environment and a good team, we've all had shitty service riders trying to get parts. Like, thank God. So I left right before COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
So I missed all that like
Yeah.
nonsense of
COVID wrecked everything inside the dealership.
yeah. And it
And a
definitely
system that
wasn't
was
the guys
already,
that to be there.
some of those systems were already bad too. And it's like then COVID comes along.
So I got told actually how they did the technicians where I was at as far as the pay plan.
Mm-hmm.
They screwed them over. I made more money sitting at home. I only had to work 8 hours at my new job, just because, and then the rest of it was, the whole whatever funding they gave us for the stuff. But I'm not essential because a rental car company traveling. So what the hell,
Exactly.
but yeah, it's the way that they were treated was dog shit. Like,
Yep.
no, that's ridiculous.
I remember seeing the posts on Facebook, and I mean, they were incensed, and they should have been. They were pretty mad about it. Like, why is it that I'm essential and I'm here working on all this stuff? I'm in the transportation industry. I get it. But like you said, there was people that were literally being paid to stay home. And there's not a better way really to rip the fabric of society than to do that haves and have not shits and have the government do it. It's exactly what they did.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
Revolution, patriot
right.
it.
And
But
and
yeah,
I
it just
talked I talked to
sucks.
my wife yesterday about this same thing. I'm like, what do you do with the situations that we're in now with, the war and all this other stuff? It's like you could go and protest, but they're not going to listen. We don't even
Yeah,
know who's exactly in control, if you ask me.
right, one hundred
The
percent.
guy that
Especially
ran
how
the guy
just
that
fucking
ran
through the
got in
box.
on a anti-war ticket, right?
Yeah, man,
And then
it's
all of a
ridiculous.
sudden, oh well, hey, we just bombed like 6 different areas, and hey, now it's time for peace. And it's like,
Yeah,
what in the hell
and
is
then 10
that
minutes
even, right?
later, you just eat a shit at that point. Like,
Right.
well, who do you trust? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, the
And
way I
that's
look at that shit, dude, I just say, when they ask me that kind of shit, I just say, hey, look, I got to work tomorrow regardless. So, fuck it. If
right,
that is what it is.
exactly. Yeah.
My,
Yeah.
my bill's
I
still
have to be
due.
able to feed my family some way. It's exactly right. I got to feed myself
Yeah.
and I got to
So, I
feed
don't give
them.
a shit. I've been getting in Texas since I was 15, working at Arby's. I've been getting screwed over since then. And I'm a
Exactly.
single
And
male
that was what
with
I was
no
telling her. I was like,
dependents.
if you have a
Yeah.
revolution, that's all well and good, but who
Then
actually
what?
takes over after that? We don't know.
Yeah. And who do you
Like,
trust?
yeah, and you could have like strata of government, right? Like there's
Yeah.
areas in the government that seems like right now that we don't even know what the hell's happening. So yeah, I was like, I don't know if that's not the best thing either, because we don't know what's exactly going on.
No, you figure they had all that shit going on with, Trump and then Elon, and then I guess they got into a fight. Now
Right.
what? Fucking 3 months ago, everybody's like, yeah, they're doing great shit. And now he's like, fuck you, dude. And, it's like,
Yep.
okay, so where are
And
we
now
at
they're
now?
breaking all the wrong shit again. It's like, what the hell are you guys doing? I told my wife, I was like, they probably threatened his life. I was like, they've already threatened his life multiple times and said he ended up getting in. I was like, they probably just didn't want to deal with Kamala's dumbass.
dude. I'm telling you, and I mean the memes are
It's
great
like,
though when they show Elon having his fucking MD teacher at the award ceremony, just like
yeah,
this. But I mean,
yeah.
people that he's definitely on the spectrum. He's definitely, if you're
Oh,
that smart, you're definitely gonna have
yeah.
some culture about you.
Yeah,
But that is a little suspect.
he's a dangerous guy, if you ask me. I've had students ask me, like, you like Elon? I'm like, I love what he's able to do. I was like, but to be
Yes.
honest, like, you're dealing with the origin story of a possible villain at some point. Like, just like
Think
he
about
flipped around and like tried his
it.
best to
Mad
try to get
scientist.
Trump in. Like, if
Yes.
they end up
Yeah.
screwing him over, he's got a pretty high level of justice, it seems like, that's inside of him. And if they
He's probably
screw him
got
over, it's going to be
it
ugly.
is.
I was like,
He's
you're
probably
dealing with a
he's
villain.
probably got his own. He's probably got his own damn robot army, bro. Like straight up
Well, and
Terminators and shit.
that's the
Like
other
he's
thing.
already
I
made them.
mean,
He already made them.
since he fires rockets into the air, it's a DoD program. It's all Department of Defense. So of
Yeah.
course, like, there's things that we don't even know as a public that goes on at SpaceX, just like there's always things going on at NASA that we're not privy to. I mean, it's the reason that they parked the SR-71 Blackbird. They didn't need it anymore. Satellites took over. So
You think it's
yeah.
fucked?
Well,
That shit's
I'm sure they still fly. Don't get me wrong.
They got something new.
To this day, I still think if you told me that plane came out yesterday, I'd believe you, because it was so far advanced for when it was. I think they started working on it in the 50s,
That
like
was what
58,
originally
57, somewhere in that neighborhood.
that was Area 51's training ground was for Blackbird.
Yeah, Have Blue and all that stuff out there where they did the F-117, and it's crazy to even think about that.
The stealth bomber.
Like, people didn't even know about that plane for like 20 years.
I remember hearing I watched the documentary about the SEAL-Team 6, like trying to get up. It wasn't about SEAL-Team 6. It was about getting Saddam Hussein or
Yes.
shot Saddam. Shit, I'm sorry.
Which one? We've only bombed every fucking country over there.
The search for Osama bin Laden.
Yes, Mr. Bin Laden.
Yeah, and they're all
CIA
assholes,
trained here in our own country. I remember him.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? But the helicopters that he used to actually perform the last mission to go get his ass, they are top secret as shit, and they were like they had a design on for a specific way to beat Iran, or I guess Iran or Pakistan's radar system, because it wasn't a safe zone to be around. So there's shit that we don't even. Yeah, but back on
my
ex-brother-in-law.
Yeah, exactly. Not yet. You already got me off on this fucking trail now, so I'm taking it. Yeah, squirrel. I'm really bad at it. My ex-brother-in-law told me one time he was on a boat. He was in the Navy, and he's like, we literally was there one evening. He goes, we were on this thing, and he says, all of a sudden, he said, we didn't hear anything. He goes, which was the wildest thing. He goes, but all of a sudden, we have like 3 of these boats up on us, and he goes, they were our boats. He goes, but we didn't hear anything. He's like, I don't know. It's like they were screw propulsion or what the hell they were. He goes, but they barely made any wake. He goes, they barely made any noise. He goes, they just showed up. Guys got off, other guys got on, and they took off again. And he goes, I've never seen anything like it. I got to believe him. He was there. I wasn't, he was a fire control guy. He was a guy that got to be told to hit the missile button. Yeah. It's like, what do I know, But, he's like, yeah, they got some pretty amazing stuff that no one knows about, right?
Well, the actual depth of the actual maximum depth of a submarine is still classified.
Sure. Yeah.
My uncle was intelligence. What the hell you want to call it? Q6 analyst. So he was the one that would sit there and listen for like submarines and shit. This guy, I swear to God, he could hear me fart in my bedroom. And he could be like outside. Like it's ridiculous.
It's like the movie The Hunt for Red October.
He was that dude, man. That fucker heard, he could hear me breathing with headphones on. I'm like, yep. Top secret, all classified, all that kind of shit.
Some people just got that.
Down.
Some people,
crazy shit.
Right?
He was just crazy shit.
So hybrid pay.
Hybrid pay. I think. So I never worked on a system that was actually, a standard rate or flat rate. Yeah.
Right.
So I was offered to get a place something like that, but the scale, it looks good on paper, hypothetically, but what are you going to run into? So here's the hard thing for me. I'm used to flat rate. All right. I know
Hmm.
the evils. I know what it can do. I know what it's like to make 70 hours a week, and make a bunch of money. Right. And
Right.
then I know what it's like to be stressed the fuck out on Monday morning with no hours, no paycheck, and pray to God that this week is good. Um, and then I went to an hourly system where I pay by the hour. I have the again, what is it, overtime, time and a half, and then holiday pay, double pay, that kind of stuff. So I never worked the actual, commission bonus, tier system kind of thing.
Sure.
And when I seen it, um, I almost kind of scared the shit out of me because I'm like, I know what this is. I know what this is. Do I want to
Right.
give up this for this just to take it down? Is it actually worth it? And then I heard, because I spoke to somebody who worked there, and he actually explained to me how that tier system worked. And it was, sorry, it was worded in a way that is very misleading. Um, I'll just say that. Um, would I try it if I have to? I mean, it is what it is. I much prefer to have, commission plus bonuses for, efficiency and stuff like that. But at the same time,
Exactly.
I'm the kind of tech that's I'm not I'm not going to sacrifice my quality of workmanship for the paycheck.
Right.
I had weeks where I lost my ass. I lost my ass plenty of times at the dealership on flat rate, but the job was done correctly. And I don't sell shit that they don't need. There's enough broken stuff on the car for me to make a paycheck. And plus,
That's
being
exactly right.
being friends with the used car guy, he's going to help me out. And we had a really good used car department, which, as long as you did the shit correctly and you were truthful and honest, you can, bang out 8 hours pretty easy. And that's all paid by the actual dealership itself. It's not an actual customer. And then recalls were really good. And then also I was gifted the nitros for the new cars. So that was like 4/10 per car you did. So I'm constantly hauling ass, going to get a new car, nitro fill it until it gets done, do my job here, and just keep on rolling out. So that's how I made so many hours.
Exactly.
But
You got to treat it like a factory.
yeah, and unfortunately that's where I'm at now is treating like a damn factory with the fleet service. But I would give it a shot, man. I'm just not going to sacrifice my quality. I'm not going to
So
put
I
my
got
name
to
on
see it.
someone's floor.
I got to see it from both sides. I worked at a Firestone store that did a 3-tier pay system on your hourly as a flat rate. And we had issues up front. We'd never really scheduled enough cars, it seemed like, except for Saturdays. Saturdays was like, oh, yeah, we got all the cars in the world. But we had 2 guys that ran the front. We would do like 3 cars a day sometimes during the week. And I'm like, why are we
Dude,
only doing 3 cars? We had 3 techs. Like, how is that even
what?
a thing, right? But we would do like $18 an hour for your base up to 40 hours. If you did over 40, you got, I think it was 20 an hour for every hour that you turned. So if it was 41 or 42, then you got 20 for all that. And then if you got to 50, I think it went to 23 an hour. And our market was kind of shit. It wasn't that great.
Yeah,
I seen that happen, and you could piece together a decent paycheck. You couldn't call off on a Saturday. Like, that was the only time you'd ever
that
make a
was your money
check.
day.
That was the
Yeah,
money
that's not
day,
what.
yeah. And I can still remember to this day doing a front differential, setting up a differential in a Ford F-150 and putting it back together on a Saturday, right? Like most technicians
You
now
missed
be like,
all.
there ain't no way in hell I'm doing that on a Saturday, right? Like, I was there,
No,
I don't know,
you
we
missed
we
all your
closed at
gravy.
5. Yeah. So I did that,
Missed all
and
the
then
gravy.
I seen it as a manager at Volvo. So we had 3 Ukrainian guys who worked on Volvos there, and they were amazing. Probably the best workers I've ever been around. They busted their ass. And
Volvo toast or something. Something.
yeah, they were on it all the time. And I had one guy there, same pay, same setup, but I think he started at 21 an hour is what he was making. But he went all the way up to like 26 or 27 for every hour that he would turn if he got to 60 or 50. And there was 3 months in a row and he didn't have comebacks, so he was doing stuff right the first time. But I think I paid him over 8 grand gross, like 3
Yeah,
months in
I
a
remember
row.
you
That
told.
guy turned,
Yeah,
and
I
he
just
was
said,
able to do it because of that pay system. And I always looked at it like you're on an you're not really on a guarantee, because it wasn't a guarantee at all. But the way that they tiered it out, you actually was able to put together a really nice week if you were able to, right? And that's what he just always did. He always was able to put together a nice week, and he was able to take care of himself and his family. But $8,000 a month, pretty
That's
good
bad.
money for working on Volvos.
Yeah, for a tech. Yeah. I mean, they do. What's the biggest thing on those suckers? The damn strut mounts for the older ones. Those fuckers
Pretty
always
much.
made noise. Because so I worked for a Mitsubishi Volvo dealership early on.
Hmm.
So that's why I got to see the Volvo stuff firsthand. And when I say those guys are next level, that shit is next level. Like that's the first time I've ever seen a really badass cancel, like the wireless dongle thing. I didn't work on those
Sure.
things. I think
They
I
seem
like
like
the idea.
tanks. Out of all the vehicles I've ever worked with, I mean,
Does a
we did a
force?
lot of
Oh shit.
maintenance work. It was like
Yeah.
being at a Toyota or a Honda dealership, to be honest. There's a lot of maintenance stuff.
Well, yeah, but I mean that quality of that car is ridiculous. That shit, dude. What was it? It was a 5-cylinder turbo, right? Inline five. Yeah. Those fuckers didn't break. And what they did, I mean, they get a turbo or those guys could. It was crazy to me. It was something I wasn't never used to it. I was more of a more of an Asian market than now domestics and stuff like that. But to see the way that stuff was put together, to see the difference in like how the suspension is made and stuff like that, it was just like really eye opening because that was my
Right.
first dealership experience. Like talk about Saturdays, like I wouldn't miss when I worked for Kia. I wouldn't miss Saturday because there'd be like 2 or 3 techs, and I would
Right.
drive 4 fucking days. I'd run 4
Yeah.
days.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're exactly right.
I remember like I'll fucking break off here, okay, 30K here, whatever, and just keep bam, 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 you know.
Yeah, it's
But
like you're at a car festival at that point. You got all the area you want. You can do all the kind of
yeah, dude.
jobs like you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I
I
would
treated
make techs mad during the week because I would pull a car in and check it, get it in the air, and then I'd submit that estimate. And I'd pull another one underneath of it, put a fender cover over the top of it on the roof in case the other one leaked anything. And I'd start checking it out like on a flat bay. And then
dude.
I hadn't got any word back. I'd pull a car behind it. Like I'd pull it up, block my bay. And they're all like, well, why are you doing all that? I'm like, well, so that's how I get paid. Like I have to do it this way. Like why not? I should be asking you why you're not doing it that way. That would make more
Oh,
sense.
you
Yeah,
want to know
like
why
you're over
my
here
shit
asking
took
me
20
questions. I
years?
should be over there asking you why aren't you doing it like that?
Right. Your ass is over there hanging out, talking to your friend bullshit, and I got 3 cars up here. Oh yeah, that's how I did it. Because we only had one when I was at Toyota, we only had one big piece. So I'd have the fucking car in the lift and whatever, and then I'd have the car behind it. Um, it was different when I actually did when I ran the oil change side of things, so the quick lane. So the way it was set up was that they had an uh, outside two post thing where you could just drive the car onto it, do it. And so they had a team of guys out there that would do all the cars for the unibodies. And then all the trucks had to come inside because they pick them up. So I did I did all the Tundras and Forerunners, Sequoias, anything with a frame on it. I was doing those services. So I'd have the bam, bam, and then, wrap this one,
Right.
lift up, just yeah, dude, just moving. And I mean, I was turning
It's
50, 60 hours changing oil with it.
yes. That's
And
what I was going to
that's a
say. I mean,
shitty ass certificator.
you have to turn and
Your
burn
house
on
is
that stuff.
it's flat rate. Yeah. Do you want a paycheck or not? But yeah, I used to pull the car out and then, okay, they approved this. And then I've followed the lift already. I bring the car in, I start running the fuel services,
I always tell
service stuff
students,
today.
I always tell them that they're project managers. They're like, what? Project
You
manager? I'm
gotta
like,
be.
you're
Yeah.
you're a project manager. Each car is a project. I said you have to make sure that you're wrangling and making sure parts are coming. I said you may
Timely.
talk to your advisor about that. You may talk to the department about that. Go to the parts department, but to send emails, I'm like, the efficiency of sending an email from your toolbox is like unbelievable at this point. And for the most part, I mean, some places I worked at, we had like Slack and all that kind of stuff. We had internal messaging also, but it was like that saves you so much time to just send a quick message and ask, hey, RO number, whatever. Hey, did the parts come in for it? Are they here? Can I come over? And also teach them all the time, use a cart. Take the cart and go straight to the parts department and get these, especially at Volkswagen, our batteries are like, they might as well win the damn semi. So like use the cart, don't carry the shit if you don't have to. You can actually turn out more work during the day because you're not wearing yourself out being some badass because you can carry a battery across the shop. No one gives you shit if you can carry a battery across the shop. Go get a cart, drive it back over there, take it back to your bay and work on it. It makes no
See, I wish I
sense.
would have. I agree with that 100%. And see, I wish I would have realized that when I worked for Toyota, because I would have went out
Right.
and bought one of those damn moving cars. And because the way it was set up is that I was in the center, and then I'm at the tire machine way the hell over here. I wish I would
Exactly.
have got one of those stupid, moving cars, loaded off full tires, and fucking roll it over there instead of doing the whole,
The one I had, Donald, was the big heavy one from Harbor Freight that was plastic. It was a 500-pound
yeah,
weight
the one
class, and it had large wheels on it, so that way it would roll over air hoses and
zip
stuff in the
ties.
shop. Yep.
Yeah,
And I would
yeah.
put
I
I
wish I would have
put
bought one.
muffler clamps on the side of it so you could hang your impacts in it or hang your electrics in it. And
Yeah.
man, it was like the best. You could take it under a car and work with it. And it was like, I don't know, it was probably 100, maybe $200 at the most. But if something happened to it, it wasn't $1,000 cart that Snap on had, or it wasn't like, why the hell would I go and do that? All I'm going to do is work with it.
Yeah, that's how I did it. I had the main box, and then I just have a little roll cart, and I would just set my stuff up. So when when you're working on, so like Toyota, you can set it up. I know what I need. I'm gonna need a damn 8, 10, 12, 14, 17,
Yep.
19, 21. You can
I
set your
would
shit
always
up.
pay attention. I'd always pay attention to what specialty tools that I needed and where I could get them at. And then instead of going to the specialty cabinets, the big one for us was axle sockets. There's a bunch of different
Yeah,
triple square stuff for Volkswagen. There was a bunch of actually like 30 millimeter, 33 millimeter, some oddball stuff. And I just went and bought all of it and I put it on an actual socket, holder, and laid it in my toolbox. And that was my specialty sockets. And that I never
yeah.
had to wait on somebody else to go find it. I never had to wait to go sign it out. Like I had those sockets for me to work in my bay. And anything you could do to make it more efficient makes you more money.
Organized you are, the better you are.
And when I was young, yep, when I was young, all my stuff was a pigsty. My box was always dirty. My cart always had tools left in it at night. It was terrible. And I became a store manager around about 25 years old. And I got this weird OCD about paperwork, and everything had to be exactly right. It had to be straight and, all this kind of stuff. And then when I went back into being a
How do you have
technician,
that and not have that tools? That's what I don't
right.
understand.
Well, and then it happened because as soon as I went back into working on cars again, now all of a sudden I was that way. I wiped all my tools down. My toolbox was always pristine. I had the nano wax. I had the Windex. I had, all the stuff on the side of my box in case I got a customer's car dirty, the interior. I had Windex. I had a nice microfiber. I always wore gloves.
I
Yeah.
don't give a shit on bitch flips if you want to, but my hands ain't stank. And if I
Well, and
get
that's
into
the thing.
your
I used to tell them also, like, why would you want to go and take your wife or your significant other to a restaurant and have really nasty hands? There's no
so you're a
pride
store
in any of that shit. That's all
oh,
great.
Jason,
That's wonderful, but
yeah,
just wear the
yeah,
gloves. Not only that,
yeah, help me
why would you
shit.
want to have chemicals on you all day long? A lot of them are carcinogens. So why
Oh,
would
food
you want to
stores.
mess with that?
Yeah. So the funny story about how the gloves actually came to fruition was because of the fact that I was working 2 jobs at the South Yard. I was shipping cars during the day, and on the weekends I would go ride food for a restaurant in Cheddar's. So I was like, well, shit, why the hell would I want to pass the customer his food with dirty, stained hands?
Yes,
So that's why I started wearing gloves so I could, make more money that way. Because now, no one wants to be handed food with dirty ass hands.
exactly.
Think about the person handing you the food. You know what I mean?
And I also have a bad habit of I'm a nail chewer.
So
So like if I do that, I definitely don't want to have grease and oil and dirt and grime in my fingernails and have that stuff in my mouth. That's crazy.
yeah,
Makes it even worse. I've done that. Yep.
and everything in it was snap on. All the head tools were snap on. So he would literally sit there on Friday morning or whatever and take apart every single thing, fix the gears, grease them, all that shit. But he's that much. I mean, it's well over $100,000 in that damn
Oh
box.
yeah, easily.
And that's not even the shit on the side of it, the welders, the Ford's special tools, IDS shit that he paid for himself. And that's what I learned that shit too. You know, when you make that kind of investment in those tools, when you want them to last, you know, even if they have a warranty, I don't want this fucker to break while I need it.
Right. Did you ever take apart like your impacts and maybe super tune them? Do anything to the inside of them? Polish them, port them, take the muffler out
No,
of them, any of that shit? I did that. I did that
I
to a
ain't all
couple
those
of them.
bastards.
Yeah, I did that to a couple of them. I ordered a new rebuild kit for, I had an Ingersoll 2131, the plastic composite one, and
Oh yeah,
I
that's
beat
low
that
down.
thing to death, man. And finally,
Quick kill it.
I broke a set of hammers in it, and I ordered a new set of hammers for it, and then I ordered the entire air rebuild kit for the motor, put it all back together, and I'd taken the muffler out of it, and I'd
Run
ported
that
the end
bastard.
of it. So I opened the end of it up, and then I ported the inside of it and cleaned it all up and smoothed it. And I think factory, it said it ran about 8,000 RPM, open on like 150 PSI. It ran about
Yeah,
10,000 when I was done with it. And it was so loud. I think it broke the set of hammers in it in about 6 months. It ended up breaking the
yeah.
hammers. But the guys that worked next to me were like, you need to put that son of a bitch back in your toolbox. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, it's too noisy. I can't even work next to that thing. It's loud as hell. He said, it sounds like
Oh
a
my god.
jet. I was like, I know. I said, but it takes stuff apart so much easier and faster. Now you have no idea how much better it really is. I was like, here, you try it. Yep. Oh, it was like listening to stuff at NASCAR races, man. It's like, zee, really loud.
Bro, I remember the difference. So like, I was gifted a heavy ass Mac half-inch air back, like
Yeah.
full all metal. I mean, this it had to be everything at 15 pounds, bro. And when you're shipping a car, you're using that same half-inch impact all day. And I remember getting my hands on a deposit one, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
I was the
No,
same. I was doing tires. I was doing tires all day long when I got mine. And, I went from like an Ingersoll 21, was it 231? So it was the all aluminum one. It was still heavy though. But then I went to that composite, and then finally I got them to switch over to what are they called? The Godzilla, the Greenzilla. I can't remember what they're called. They're the green hoses. They're really lightweight.
oh, yeah.
The
Yeah,
Hosezilla or something like that. And
yeah, it was something like that.
man, I tell you what, it was night and day. I mean, I actually went home. I would still do a full day's work and go home, and I didn't feel as tired as I did. And you wouldn't think that just by changing an air hose and an impact, but it definitely helped.
Yeah, shades out the fitting on the bottom, make it swivels and shit.
Yeah, put the swivel on it.
For
Yeah,
your ratchets. Oh yeah. But
yep.
now all that shit's now we're all battery powered. Now we're
Yeah,
back
it's all
to the
electric. Yeah, I was gonna say the last thing I had a whip hose on, it had the same. It was called a Flexzilla. That's what they were. Had a
yes.
Flexzilla hose on it. It had I had a quarter drive snap-on ratchet that had the little tiny air
Trigger.
360 swivel on it, and it had that 4-foot hose or 6-foot hose on it. Because I always kept it clean because it was my interior ratchet. It was what I used for the inside of customers' cars. So, and then of course ended up going to a electric after that, and it
Yeah.
ended up being, it's a lot better if you don't have to drag the hose around.
Brother, I'll tell you, I remember I bought the first Mac half-inch, quarter-inch ratchet. It's at the empty wall, but I mean, I remember
Right.
back in the day, they were so expensive, but I remember just game changer. I'm like, oh, and stuff, but that was years after. I mean, I didn't go crazy buying stuff. I bought as I could, and I didn't have the best toolbox. I didn't go out there and just go.
I never bought into that toolbox thing and the dick measuring contest that comes along with any of that stuff. I never bought into any of that. The last toolbox I owned was the large 2-bay with might have been one big solid drawer on top of it. It was just the U.S. General from Harbor Freight. And I always thought my thing I tell students even to this day, spend the money where it counts on working on the cars. Putting your tools away and having them in some big fancy box does you no good at all other than that's a vanity thing. My thing always was, will it stop my peers from getting inside of it while I'm at work? Because anybody can get in that box if it's after hours and they got a torch. Like it's not even worth worrying about, right? Put your insurance on it and keep your insurance on it. But I never got into that whole the weird thing that happens with, toolboxes and stuff. Like, oh, I got to have the
Funny
best
thing,
one. I got to have the giant snap-on. I worked with a guy that had two back then. It was the largest snap-on boxes you could get. They were 56 inchers.
it's
He
not,
had
it's not
two of them. And he had two of them, and he had them sit together, and they were
yeah,
bolted together.
it sounds like Congress. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
But
I mean,
James'
that's
ship is
great.
full.
Yeah, and this guy's was full. He was actually the guy that his name was Ed Elliott. He was the guy that kind of got me into, hey, man, like this guy's working all day long. He's making a lot of money over here, and he's doing diag work. He's wearing gloves. He's running around. He ain't that dirty. Like I was doing motors and transmissions at the same place, and he's right next to me. And I'm like, well, what the hell is he doing that I'm not doing? Because I'd like to do that. That looks like that's fun. As first place I ever seen somebody use an oscilloscope. First place I ever seen somebody use even an ignition scope. We had a big cathode ray tube style with the green, the green bulb on the front of it, right? That had the actual electrons bouncing in it. Yeah. We had like I think it was a sun, it was a sun machine.
Something
Man, it was amazing.
about
Like it was awesome. But that's
it's
the only thing anybody ever used to use them for was ignition. It wasn't like, injectors later on.
talk about those things. But no, that's what James taught me. And it is like, shit like that. Like, it's always funny to see, you see the new guy coming in, rolling in his $10,000 toolbox, and then he has to come ask you to borrow a damn socket. What? No, no. If you want to be stupid, you go ahead and do that. I mean, I saw a kid buy them, $6,000-7,000 Macro box, but he couldn't fix a fucking sandwich. Like,
right.
What's the point to?
Exactly.
Here, why don't you go buy it? Let me sell you this book by Scanner Dare. Let me go buy a Let2 and learn how to actually how electricity works.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
but it ends up in the box, like you said. It ends up, all your finances, it all ends up in the box itself, and it doesn't help you at all.
And then you're stuck with like, because I mean, I had to buy shit too. Toyota used the 12-point active sockets and stuff like that. And the first time I ever saw a triple square, I said, "What the hell is this shit?" Pulling out torque converter bolts on a Volkswagen Beetle. Fuck those things. Those are, God, man, I swear to God, it almost tripped one out, dude, a few times. Holy shit.
Oh yeah, your butt puckers up when you start to actually take it out because you're like, man, this is going to go bad. At least one of these is going to go bad.
Yeah, well, I only had enough. That was early on, so I only had to mine about one set. So I was like, well, shit, I'll go ahead and buy the full set. So I got the universal set by backup. And if you didn't have that sucker all the way up in there, man, and it was already a tight fit because Volkswagen, but
exactly.
But yeah, full of I can't close, boy. I swear. Torque converter bolts, joke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're no fun at all.
Triple squares are trash, man.
So I got a couple questions left. I have a couple questions left for you, Donald. So one of the things that I would love to see in the country, and maybe it's just me not knowing enough about it, but it seems like there's a huge shift in people going to school to do automotive and not so much going to starting out pushing the broom or taking the trash out and moving up the shop system that way, where they're going to get way more hands-on, I feel like, as apprenticeships and with mentors as they would as coming to a tech school. Now I'm working at a tech school. I'll probably always be working at a tech school at this point, and they have their value. But I also think that in order to fill the skills gap that we have, it's going to be all hands on deck. And they're going to have some apprenticeship programs at some of these places that maybe have never looked into, hey, let's run an apprenticeship program. One of the guys I used to work with, who is now working at on the fleet side at Dodge, I'm going to try to have him on the podcast here before long. He's got like 20 people underneath of him now, and that's what they run there. They're running an apprenticeship program at the fleet side of a Dodge dealership. So do you think that's a great idea, a bad idea? Are you somewhere in the middle as you would fall down on that? What do you think about that idea? Is like pushing apprenticeships more?
Well, I think that'd be a great idea, honestly, as long as you have the right person, lead the charge for it. And then you also got to think about the company or dealership or whatever, provide a financial gain. Can they afford it? Or do they actually want to pay for it? Because it's going to cost money. It's hard enough to get training as it is.
I don't think we've done ourselves any benefit in this industry. to
No,
keep it
not really,
going.
man. No, I mean, you hear
Because
the
there's
story
no
about
apprenticeship. There's no dealerships putting money
no,
back into like
no,
having people there. Then some of them, some of the places even, I would say across the board, almost seem like they don't even want to pay the people that they have,
right,
as opposed to
100%.
even going over and above and really pushing an apprenticeship program.
I mean, I've heard so many stories about the guys that actually like, they do all the modules, online modules by themselves on their own time, just so they can go to training, and then the dealership
Yes.
won't pay for them to go to the training.
And then they
That
don't even get paid for the
sucks.
ones that they took at the dealer where they're at.
Well, shit, you're not gonna get paid for those, man. I think that's a wash. You just, as part of a dealership, you're gonna have to just suck it up and just do the fucking module. Just go home and knock them out. Because I mean, you might get lucky and it might give you an hour here and there, but I mean,
Well, that was a system
it's
that I was a part of once when I was at Volkswagen. If we did a module and we finished it, we got an hour for it. And
really
that was actually
that's unheard
way
of.
more than I thought that any of us would
It's
ever
unheard
get,
of.
because I was in the same system you're talking about. I was that guy that used to complain like, you want me to do a bunch of training just to go to training, but then no one wants to actually pay me for it. And I would like to at least get paid. I know that I'm going to benefit from it anyways, because all that knowledge and that skill that I'm learning is mine. No one can ever take it back from me. But on the other side of it, it's still my time that I'm putting into it, and I'm going to end up benefiting you also. So
Percent.
as a
So
partnership, like, why am I the only one that seems like I'm getting screwed, right?
yeah, so I'll say I got lucky in Toyota. My service manager right out the gate was like, "Yeah, we're sending you to training. We're pushing the fast track program." I was Toyota expert, or certified enough to do expert level in order to do certain recalls, because that's how their tier system works. You have to have certain certifications to be able to do certain recalls, right?
Exactly.
I I wanted to be where I wanted to be a master tech. I wanted all the training I could get, 'cause I never had training available to me. Uh,
Exactly.
I got books. I can books, webinars, and YouTube stuff like that. So I got to go to training, but I knocked out all those modules.
Yes.
Oh, do this, done. And I didn't bitch about it. I just did it. You know what I mean? Um, but like when it comes down to an apprenticeship program, before I even went to Toyota, I remember going to certain independent shops and asking them, okay, what kind of, I'm looking to become an apprentice for, I want to be a master tech.
Exactly.
What do y'all have to offer for that? I literally had a shop down the road tell me, I think you're in the wrong place. I've already been turning wrenches for 7 years. And
Right.
I'm just asking, I just said, hey man, I just want to fix course correctly, do it the right way. And he's like, yeah, I think you're at the wrong place. And I'm thinking about it now. I was like, no, I wouldn't. I'm glad you told me that shit, because do not want to be around you. All you care about is profit. So I don't even know
Exactly.
if they're still in business or not, but yeah, I was in the wrong shop. But it depends on who's going to lead the charge, like the mentor herself. When I was at
Right.
TED, I had a shitty team leader. I couldn't ask them the questions. So me and Burr worked together to figure out our problems. We didn't go to our team leader. We didn't go to our foreman. We went to, hey, dude, have you seen this? Yes. Hey, help me out, help me out. Yeah, that kind of shit. We work together to make that happen. It needs to be done, because that book is not going to teach you everything. It's theory and operation, pretty much,
Exactly.
right? I can read that book 20. I got one sitting over there, Automotive Theory and whatever, fifth edition. I found it in a junkyard car. I've had it forever. Um, but it's not gonna teach you how it feels to over tighten that bolt. It's not gonna teach you how it feels like when that bolt's about to snap, or how to deal with a shitty work job, warranty job. You know,
Exactly. Yeah, it'll be the hands-on portion, and having someone there like James was like next to you sometimes working on different stuff. You have to have somebody that's done it before a lot of times to actually be able to be successful at it.
yeah. So it wasn't really James then. James was early on, like in
Yeah.
way back when. I will say I had a friend before Bird got there named Mike Ross. He was
Hmm.
from Ohio. The funny story was he actually went to Roosevelt Tech and was a student of Paul.
Did you say Ohio? Because the students at school keep telling me that it doesn't
Some
exist.
some shit like that. I don't know, dude. I'm from down here, man. Chris was fucking shit to me about it yesterday, because he was like, Pennsylvania is this. I'm like, explain this shit to me. So then he brings a map up and he's like, I'm like, okay, dude. I get it. I don't know what some up north. He went to the same school.
Right.
For my mentorship, if I had a question when I first started off, I'll tell you that if I had an issue or something like that, Mike Ross would help me out. And he was fucking great technician. But it really depends on that man. The mentorship, who's going to do it? Is the company going to invest into it? Do they even care about it? You know, is that their bread and butter? You know, there's a lot of shops out there that can't diagnose anything. They don't care about diagnosing. They just throw shit at it. You know,
No, you're exactly right. It
sucks.
ends up being that exactly. It's like they can't figure stuff out. And I mentioned this in the episode with Tommy Markham. I'm gonna say it again. I haven't done this podcast yet, but I'm going to be doing one. A student here at school took his vehicle down to the local Chrysler, Jeep, and Dodge dealership, and they completely misdiagnosed it, and then charged him $300 and some to misdiagnose it. Then they said it needed $4,000 worth of work, and I'm like, it's like a Gen 3 Dodge Cummins, like it's the most basic of basic trucks on the planet. How the hell is it that you take it to a Dodge dealership and they don't know what the hell's going on with it? It ended up being an electrical problem. It was easy. Like it was the most easy thing ever, but they couldn't figure it out. And like you just said, why is it that shops are having trouble? I think that's a huge thing. It's not only that, as a business or as someone that thinks is entrepreneur style mindset, that's a great place to go to make money, because they can't fix anything. They can't diagnose it. So why wouldn't there be like a national push to get people into being able to diagnose, especially electrical problems or drivability issues in those areas? You already have the shop. You have everything you need. You got the special tools. You got the shop. You got the factory information. You got the bodies, because there are people that are still going there to work. So why not bring two extra people in and pay them while they're there for their time and teach them how to work on the cars? It makes no sense.
I think what it is that they're afraid to ask to get paid for the diagnostic time because of the customer. There's going to be that back and forth customer.
That's true also.
You know,
I used to always throw it back on the customer, Donald. I would ask him, and you have to look at him in the eye and tell him. Now, if you went to your job and you put in an 8-hour day and then someone paid you 6.5 hours, would you be happy or would you be sad about that? Right?
No,
and that's how you have to do it. Because once all of a sudden, when it's their money, shit, it wakes them back up. Oh, okay. Well, I see where you're coming from now. Yeah, because the tooling is not cheap. The scan tools, they're not cheap. The updates are not cheap.
Yeah.
You got to pay somebody an hourly wage or a flat rate for them to look at the car. So there is a cost associated with what you're doing. So you should make a money back on it, and you should make a profit on it. The P word, profit's not a bad word.
No, not at all. Especially when it's taken this many years for people to, for me, it's taken me so many years to become efficient in certain areas. And here's the kicker. I don't give a damn. I'll get you or what tool you have. There's still going to be cars that are going to kick your ass.
Yes.
Especially, all I see is brand new stuff. So I'm seeing all the brand new headaches, brand new issues. And there is no TSBs. There is no star catching shit. I mean, here and there you might get lucky, but there's still some car that is crazy as shit. And then you kind of find out it was a programming event.
Yes.
How do you fix that?
Yeah,
you're going to
that's exactly right. I just watched a video last night with Bob from RMS Diagnostics over in the UK. He was my first guest, and he was working on a BMW M4. And that's exactly what it ended up being. It ended up being a problem inside the DME. And once you get to that spot and you don't have the proper tooling to go any further, you're done. You can't do anything with it. Actually, it wasn't a problem in the DME. It was the solenoid. It was a variable valve lift solenoid up on the engine is what ended up being the issue. Because when it was plugged in, it was pulling the system down to like 2.5 volts when it's supposed to be a 5-volt ref. He ended up finding it, and he don't have that part, and he can't get that part. Plus, it's for like a brand new BMW M4, so it's going to be difficult to get the part for it anyways. But then more than likely, if you buy the part, just like Volkswagen was, you have to do the readaptation, you have to adapt it, or you have to handshake it. And if you don't have the proper BMW information or the scan tool, you still can't do it.
Man, if you don't have the proper knowledge about EV programming, most simplest shit, you're going to end up with a brick. I mean, it's possible. how important is battery voltage? How important is sometimes this shit is bricks anyway.
Yeah.
I listen to the Sean Tipping about that stuff, and Tommy Lee was talking about programming, use modules and stuff. And it's like some of this shit's
Right.
like mind blowing. And the thing is
Yeah.
that customers will never understand until like they actually are faced with it. What is it? The cost of the Volkswagen subscription, Odin or whatever it is, that was like 10 grand or some crazy number like
Oh
that.
yeah, they're
Just to
expensive.
have, I'm not familiar with the European stuff, but like I know how much Y-Tech costs.
I
I know
know
how much the on cost.
Zentry. I think Zentry for Mercedes Benz is like 30 grand a
Uh,
year. Yeah.
something
And I know the scan tools for Volkswagen, the Otis systems were about dealership cost was about 11 G's. So
yeah,
it was on par with the Zeus.
yeah, and that's
I
just
mean,
one
when I got
brand.
to the dealership, when I was at Volkswagen, I told them we were trying to do PDIs and everything else. I'm like, you guys, there's got to be some rule somewhere that says we're supposed to have how many per technician, how many scan tools are we supposed to have? And we ended up finding it,
It's
and
like no one.
they were not in spec. So we ended up buying another one while I was there. It's the only reason I know how much they were. But you're right, like yearly subscription for that kind of stuff is expensive for the dealership. It ain't cheap at all.
No, and I mean that's
Like I
just part
said,
of
the
brand.
Zentry stuff's expensive. All of it's expensive. One of the
Yeah,
three things I usually tell, and I'm not telling this to you, I'm just saying it for the listeners. I always teach students about when it comes to programming is when you're using a battery maintainer, don't use a maintainer. You have to have one that does it for programming because it's a smooth DC signal. You're not getting nothing out of the wall for AC. The other
it's a
one is,
maintainer, not a charger.
yes, if you're going to go to a dealer or going somewhere where they're going to do programming, for the red flag part of it, I always ask them because if you go to interview, you should interview them also. It shouldn't just be a one-way conversation. Have questions for them too. And my two of the main ones are, what is your dealership internet service? How good is it? And how often does it drop? And also the second one is, do you ever have electrical anomalies where the electricity goes off intermittently? Or do you have surges? Because the same thing you were just saying about brick and stuff, it's a real problem. And if you go out there and start doing it, you may end up with, having to get support on the line. And that's even if they can get it unlocked, because they may not. And you might have to put a new computer in it anyways.
Nothing worse. Nothing's more freaky. Like oh shit moment. But your programming event stalls out, and now you're like, oh shit, 99%. What do you do? And luckily, I'll give it a few minutes, but I'll wait. But luckily, like the majority of it happens on the Y-Tech because it is a server base,
Yep.
and then it's also Bluetooth, all that kind of stuff. But usually I've been lucky. I can just, cancel out, turn the car off, give it off, restart, and then just pull back up, restart again, and it's been okay. It's taken the update because you can see the software levels. So I haven't bricked one yet, thank God. But
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely held my damn breath.
Me also, because I've done quite a few, and I've never bricked one. We did a lot of firmware updates when I was at Volkswagen, quite a few, and it would do the same thing. If it got stuck in the middle somewhere and it didn't get all of its information, it was done. It would just lock you out. But
Yeah, I'm telling you,
I
man.
used to
I
tell
think
people there's nothing worse than having a 4,000-pound paperweight, right? Because once it does
yeah,
that, it's all it's worth at that point. You can let your kids play inside of it and turn the radio on. That's about it. And that's even if you can do
yeah,
that. Maybe you can't.
that and dunk out. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We don't
yeah,
teach Power
yeah.
Probe at our school either. They have their
That's a good
place.
tool,
I think they're
but
amazing
yes,
tools. And
if you know what
Power
you're
Probe
doing,
themselves, the company
good
makes a
company.
ton of nice stuff.
Yes,
The
it's not
ECT
their fault. It's
3000 was the last thing I had that was theirs that I used, and I
nice.
love that thing. It
Yeah,
was amazing.
it's not their fault. It's the idiots that don't know what the hell they're doing. Put
It's
sending
exactly it.
12 volts too. I
Like
like a PC in this. Yeah,
if you really think that that's what it is, you better double and triple check what you're getting ready to add ground or add power to, right? Because it might end up really bad. Like you said, you're going to let all the magic smoke out. Can't put it back.
shit, you can try.
Doesn't go back. So one last question for you is, what is Donald's legacy in the industry, in life, in your family, any of those things?
It's ongoing, man. I think I'm making it, trying. I mean, at this point, dude, honestly, I just try to be a good human being and get back where I can, try to make each day better than it was yesterday, make people around me better, I don't know, like it's such a hard question to ask at 35 years old. It's like, Well, like if you go through life and at certain stages of life, your legacy or, what your hobbies are, what you're doing will change. And as you grow your opinions and things and you start to understand things a little more differently, or you may look at something a little bit more, differently. But at this point, man, I'm just trying to make it. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to be doing next.
Right.
Because I am getting older and I'm not going to retire the rest of my life. I got too much invested into myself, my knowledge base, and my craft to be, working for a fleet service just doing fucking tires. Like I make a
Exactly.
joke, I say I'm the highest paid tire tech there is in Savannah, Georgia. But
Exactly.
at the same time, I'm also expected to do the diagnosis, repairs, recalls, all that shit. And I'm one person. I'm only one person. Like I do the best I can, but you know, I can't run like that forever. I'm trying to figure it out, man. Like even the stuff that's hot on, like it just came out of nowhere.
Sure.
It literally came out of me on the community forum answering questions for people, trying to
Exactly.
be helpful and not in like a dickish way, just like, being legit. Like, hey, let me try to help you out. Or would you like me to help you out? I've never unsolicited that kind of stuff, but just like, and all of a sudden, boom, this happens. Okay, boom, this happens. And it's just like if you're trying to do something positive and something good each and every day, it, karma's a real thing and it comes back to you, man. So, here we are a year or 2 years later, and I'm putting together like, video shoots and shooting videos and you know, it's crazy, man. I would never would have thought that I would actually be here right now, like in this situation.
Exactly.
And I'm not where I want to be at, but I'm pretty sure I'm heading in a direction that I'm going to be happy with when I get there. I think the biggest thing is I'm trying to learn to enjoy the journey and not be
Yes.
so focused on the destination. So
Yeah,
I'll
you
let you
have
know in
to
like 30. I'll let
you
you
have
know
to
my
make sure
legacy
you're
in 30
slowing
years.
down every now and again, looking around, right?
Go touch the grass and stare up at the stars.
Yep. So I think our consciousness has this weird way of pushing off our ultimate demise, right? Like it blinds
We're our
us.
own worst enemy.
Yeah. And it blinds us and we don't even realize that someday we're actually not going to be here. So it's like that's
The
why I
shit.
always ask the legacy question. I've done it now so this will be number 6. And I always ask the
It's a
legacy
good
question
question.
because I think about that stuff a lot. It's really weird. Like I don't know why I'm in tune with that, but I think a lot about that. Like how will I be remembered? What will will I be anything in the industry? Will I be anything? Because I've taught, I don't know, 235 students or so far of automotive, and I've been to be their first teacher, that kind of thing. I
Yeah,
always
dude.
ask that question because I'm just wondering, and I want to know what other people like you were just saying, making it better each day, trying to help people out. And the video thing, I think, to be honest, some of the things you said earlier, you're a natural born teacher. Like you show and you go and you actually take people to what you're showing them, and then you're answering the questions, right? And people that are natural show offs, I found this out by listening to a lecture from Dr. Larry Arnn from Hillsdale College. They're all free online. A lot of those are free. And it's one on literature. And he talks about natural teachers or show offs. And I was always that way as a kid. Like I like doing that, in kindergarten, whatever you do, come and do show and tell, right? But now, if you're doing it for students and you're showing them how you're actually being able to fix a vehicle or any of these other things that we end up doing in this industry, like writing a ticket or being a
Dude,
manager and managing people, it's like I get to be part of something that I never, like you said, I never thought I'd be doing this at all. And
it's
it's
the
like,
whole adage.
yeah, I
It's
don't take
the
it for granted at all.
Oh man, it's the old adage of teaching a man how to fish, right? And here's something to think about as you being an instructor. So so many years have passed before me and James started talking, ever again.
Right.
I'm sure, he had no idea how much he really influenced me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So for your legacy, you have no idea how many students actually, how they truly feel about you. And it's just, how many people that I helped or how we don't think about we're selfless, right?
Right.
So we don't look at it as like how many people I've helped this many people and I'm the
Right.
reason why you're this good and
Yeah.
all that. Look at it that way. I'm like, shit, I showed you how to put a logo on, bro.
Right.
Big deal.
And I chalk that part of it off, like we were saying earlier. Like I don't feel haughty about it at all. Like I'm just happy that I was able to do it. Like you were saying. I don't feel any pride in, like, I'm not prideful about that, and I would never boast, "Oh, I did this or I did that."
I
Speaking
don't
of
like
what you
it.
just said, I
I
had a
don't
guy
like
that
it.
called me. I haven't talked to in 15 years, and he and I used to work together, and we fixed pins, and we did a lot of rear ends and differentials for old Econoline or Ford Econoline vans. That's all we did. And we'd do it at night, and was one of the places I worked at. He'd just come in and we moonlit, and I would make money helping him out, right? And he called me the other day, and he's like, "Man," he goes, "You've been on my mind." He said, "I ain't talked to you forever." And I said, "Hell, I thought you died." I said, "Where you been, man?" I said, "Where have you been?" His name's Tiny Man, and he'll probably listen to this. He's been watching them, but he's 71 years old now. And it warmed my heart because he got on the phone. He's like, "Man," he goes, "Well, I really had a lot of fun with you, man, playing around, doing what we used to do and working on these trucks and stuff." He goes, "I really had a lot of fun, man." And I was like, dude, I had a lot of fun too. Like I looked up to him. He's only maybe 15 years, 18 years older than I am, but I always looked up to him and watched him. He used to work at Napa during the day. He was a parts driver. And then at night, he would work on these trucks. And it was wild. We sit there and hell, I'd work till 11 o'clock midnight with him every night working on these vans. But like you said,
Yeah,
you
man.
never know. You never know what it is that you mean to other people. I had no idea that he really enjoyed that much time.
So like it's like, why are you doing what you're doing? Are you
Right.
doing it for, if you do it for selfless reasons, and you'd be surprised of how, what good could come out of it. So, but yeah, that's awesome, man. I just, the people that give back and stuff, like, you got to take a step back and just think about your own mortality. One day, we're not going to be here, so enjoy while you're still here, because there's a lot of people that are not here, regardless of circumstances, and they went too soon or whatever. So be grateful, be
Give
more.
and give people flowers while they're alive, right? Don't wait until they've died.
Right. Yeah. It's like trying to water the flowers, right? But yeah,
Right.
yeah, sure. That's the only way we're going to change this shit, is like everybody can not do it just because of social media thing, or
Exactly.
monetization and whatnot. I never stayed like to help somebody else because, every paycheck was to help that guy next to me. And that's why me and
Exactly.
Christopher are such, good friends. We had each other's back when we didn't have anybody else to help us, shit, stuff like that. So
True working class heroes do what we do every day. That's the way I feel.
it's hard to shit on anybody, and it's cost a lot of money to get started and to keep going. It's,
Yep. And
what that
sometimes it's
has
a
for.
thankless job.
Dude, I'm telling you, that's yeah. When I do tires all day, I've been tires since I was 19 years old. I had fucking grip, and I have a lot more ability. It's just the benefits and the security of the job is what keeps me there. As of now,
Exactly.
trust me, this something will come out, and that's the instructor. One of the other top masters, he's an instructor in Canada. And he was like, "You need to go. You need to go try this." And I'm like, we'll see. What the? And then I'm just trying to enjoy the journey right now. Stop being so worried about where the hell it's going to end up at. And when it does end up, then I'll be, yeah, I'm at peace. That's like
Exactly.
this.
I think that's a really good spot to wrap it up then, Donald. It's been awesome having you on. I'm glad that I've been
Yeah.
able to befriend you and talk to you through social media and now through the podcast. Keep doing what you do, man. It's awesome. Like I said, I see you at some point doing what I'm doing now and teaching students. So no matter what capacity that's in, heck, you might end up taking it to video and doing it there. So
And
appreciate you being
man,
on, man.
boys, man, I appreciate the opportunity. And if anything else, I'll do.
Think we've done something good, man.